めたらいかんぜよ。なめたらいかんぜよ。
So, hello guys. So, hello everybody on Twitch. Can you guys hear us and stuff like that? So, we're gonna say hi. Hello guys. Yes, welcome back guys, everybody, for another episode of podcast Desu. Episode 9. So we're almost into double figures now, which is crazy. If I only did like each podcast as an hour instead of 3 hours each episode, I probably would be into double figures by now. But yes, welcome guys as well. We've got two special guests again today. We've got series regular Paul as well. So he's pretty much here every week now, and we enjoy him. So we've also got as well Brian. Welcome back, my man. So it's been a long. You were, yeah. It was the first one, the first episode. They've come a long way since. So it's always great to hear from you as well. So yeah, you're welcome. And also Simon as well. Funnytoss, how are you doing, my friend? Welcome to the show, Stephen. So absolutely amazing. Yeah, these guys have been absolutely fantastic. We're gonna obviously get some updates about the Babymetal journey as well, as well as some of the after parties. And I'm really interested to hear about Steven as the translator as well. So if there's anything Babymetal related that you've been reading, he's probably translated it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. Oh yeah, they're saying they cannot hear the guests. What's going on? So
Your settings, maybe.
There we go. Yeah, just a few settings changed. So
see, I actually can't see that myself. Like there are people commenting or asking questions already.
So
there's
thank you,
chat
guys.
stream through Twitch.
Yeah, so these guys are watching us live, and then obviously what will happen is that the final podcast will go onto my my YouTube channel as well for everybody else to watch, for those that aren't tuned in today. So there we go, guys. Is that better? So Chi, thank you for the sub, my friend. Hello, welcome everybody. Well, I'll do the introductions again. I'll cut that bit off. Do you want to introduce yourself
edit
again?
that out.
I'll edit that out. So do you want to introduce yourself again, bro?
No editing. Leave the mistakes. It's even better.
Right.
You know, we could just say Yui fell off the stage.
Oh. So
What? Like it didn't happen?
yeah, exactly. Loon's like really Yui jokes already.
No, but I mean, leave the imperfections in. It makes it what it is.
It does. It really does. We've got so, like I said, we've got so much to talk about.
There's a guy in the chat who's like a massive big Yui fan and gets upset if anyone says anything mildly negative about Yui. So
send him my address. We'll have dinner. I will treat him in New York.
So yeah, we got, like I said, we got.
You know, I understand. I loved Yui too. It's cool.
So that actually was a big staple of our last episode. Obviously, the Budokan shows have been and gone since the last episode, and we were debating or even speculating about the possibility of Momo Metal, which many of us thought was sort of building up to that. It eventually didn't happen. But we know we've got more shows and stuff in the future, obviously now coming. A lot of things related to of Sakura Gaikuin as well, coming up to the 10 years for that, as well as the probably later on this year with the closing down of that. So I'm sure we'll see more news, more build up of everything that's going on that side as well. But really, I'll talk about the first things first, the recent news that's just happened then. But obviously the Budokan shows obviously have been and gone. Obviously, with my YouTube channel, mostly as a reactor, I've tried.
There's still more Budokan shows to go. There's four more. Two next week, and then 2 in April.
4 more. Yeah, sorry.
Isn't it this week? It's Monday and Tuesday, isn't it? We got a couple days, bro.
Yeah, it's coming up to Doomsday 7. Doomsday 7 and 8. Yeah.
So are we still hoping that the possibility of Momo Metal may still happen then? I'm still holding out hope.
No, I
Brian's
really
not hopeful. I think it could be, but it'll be after Budokan. I think Budokan is all about celebrating the last 10 years, so we're not going to see anything new here. We're seeing like a celebration of what they've done before. So we're seeing like throwback to the past, performances that maybe songs they haven't done for a long time, but they're bringing back now as kind of I suppose remembering the good times over the past 10 years, and like after this series, it could be something completely different. So,
like I said,
maybe in the last show, in the last show of.
because of my job as a reactor, obviously I've tried not to pay too much attention to the Budokan shows. Obviously, because I run two things. I run this podcast, but obviously I do my my YouTube channel as well, which is very much reaction baby metal orientated. So I do try to pay attention, but I don't dive head in until the content's available, and then I consume it like a man eats a whale. It's like, but yeah. What's everybody's initial thoughts then so far from what people have seen from the Budokan shows? Because we know that obviously, like Paul just said, it's very much a celebration of everything that has been. I do apologize as well. I can hear my cats running around in the background.
I mean, Paul, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I guess since the last podcast we've had Doomsday 3 and 4. So what was different about 3 and 4 compared to like 1 and 2 was they changed up the set list a bit. So we had From Dusk Till Dawn like perform for the first time ever in Japan. Only the second time ever. The first time was
First
in
time ever outside of
in
that
California.
one.
Yeah, in the Palladium it was performed that one time and it was never performed again. And it was such a surprise. People were like they didn't think this song would be played again. But out of nowhere, you know, day 3 they performed the song live, and it was a huge shocker for everybody. Yeah, so that was performed. Syncopation was performed too on day 3 and 4. So that was a change from the first day, which had Starlight and Omaginai, I think. And for day 3 and 4 was replaced by From Dusk Till Dawn and Syncopation. So that was huge. I mean, that was a big surprise. But like I paid attention to what they said in the performance. They said like we listened to you guys. So I think what they were referring to was the Baby Metal Song Tournament, where like From Dusk Till Dawn, like the fans got together and voted it against Headbanger. So it would be one of the 10 selected songs.
It was
overwhelmingly. So it won big, and then they had to come out and say, well, no, we can't put this song in for, you know, whatever rights or legal purposes, and they just picked Headbanger. So I think the performance of From Dusk Till Dawn was them kind of listening to the fans and listen to what fans want and playing the song for them, you know. And it also seems that they're focused on completing that list. So all of the 10 songs that won the 10 Baby Metal Songs tournaments, they're trying to play all of them. There's one left, Catch Me If You Can. So everyone is expecting that song to be played in, you know, the last 4 shows. So yeah, that's what was different about day.
That wasn't a song I would think they would do again.
Which one? Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can. It's not.
It's such a crowd pleaser.
In 2016.
It's such a crowd pleaser. Like the fans love Catch Me If You Can. They love when the Kami band gets involved in it, and that's gonna raise the roof in Budokan.
I mean, Catch Me If You Can, wasn't that the classic Kami solo into this song? It was the classic one.
Yeah. So it was the original like Kami solo into a song that they did.
Exactly. So I would feel they would be like they would be cheating the fans if they didn't do that one more time, because it's so classic.
No, they have to do it. I think they definitely will do that. I think they might do GJ, maybe Uki Uki Midnight.
Please no.
Yeah, they'll do some classics, I think. No, you don't think so?
I'd rather, you know, they already did Onidari. No. Uki Uki can no.
Hopefully they'll just do them all.
We got a man who doesn't like
of Baby Metal that I don't care if I ever see it's Uki.
So, getting on that note as well. Getting on that note, I do want to talk to Stephen about this. Obviously, from what your job is, man. So for anybody that may not know you in the chat as well, do you want to just talk about a little bit what you do? Because I imagine with everything that's happening with Budokan and stuff like that, there's lots of interviews going around, lots of sources and stuff. Probably a lot of work that you've been doing behind the scenes. So, yeah, please tell us about that, man.
Well, regarding the Budokan, I mean, there haven't been that many interviews about the Budokan yet. I imagine that we're going to get them, you know, after the 10th show is over. So most of, you know, when I started translating, most of what I've been doing is related to their 10-year anniversary. You know, I started with the Kadokawa, and then, then they released the 10 Baby Metal Years album, and then they went on a series of interviews with, you know, Hedoban, PMC, wherever. And so that's where the most of my work has been. But I'm looking forward definitely to seeing interviews and not just show reports. There already are some show reports for like day 1, 2, 3, and 4, but those are on the magazine by people who went there and not the girls themselves. But I expect to see those after the last show. Yeah. But I guess I should introduce myself and how I got into this thing a little bit then.
Yeah, please.
So in case you guys are just joining in, so my name is Steven, or Funnytoss, and I've been a Babymetal fan for about a year now. I grew up in the United States, but I moved to Taiwan, where I am right now, later in life. So when I was studying at the University of Michigan, I got the opportunity to study Japanese, and that included a half a year study abroad in Kyoto. So like many people, I learned about Babymetal through reaction videos, actually. My gateway was the Fine Bros React video. So I actually saw it a few years ago, I think, but I dismissed it like a dumbass as a just weird Japanese gimmick. And then I stumbled across it again during the pandemic, and I decided to see if there's anything more. And so I on YouTube, I found karate, and then Road of Resistance, and the rest of that was was history.
It's a slippery slope from there.
Fell down the foxhole.
The foxhole is deep.
Yeah.
So
cool,
as
man.
far as how I started getting into translation, like I've always enjoyed like translating things. Back in the day, I was actually a huge fan of StarCraft pro gaming, and so I translate a lot of interviews back then.
Yeah.
That's actually where the Funnytoss nickname comes from. The toss is from Protoss. Yeah, so, a huge nerd here. So my strongest language pair.
Dragons.
Yes. So my strongest language pair is actually not Japanese. It's actually Chinese and English. I studied Japanese for about 3 years in college, but it's been about like 10 years since I graduated. So I forgot a lot of it, But when, Lenzer, thanks to him, he actually, scanned and OCR'd the interview from the Kadokawa. And so like everyone else, I took it and I threw it into the DeepL, machine translation to see if I could at least get something out of it. I realized, oh, wow, machines have gotten so much better at translation than before. You couldn't really do that back in the day with Google Translation, right? Because that's unusable for anything longer than a sentence.
Yeah,
I was pretty happy, right? I was thinking, hey, I can read Japanese interviews now, awesome. But then you take a closer look at the machine translation, and you're just like, wait a minute, that's wrong. DeepL just completely...
Come on, you don't be the odd one out.
Yeah.
Payday on Monday.
DeepL added a pronoun that completely changes the meaning of the sentence there, because the Japanese language likes to omit pronouns, which you just figure out by context.
Babymetal Bible.
Yeah. So I was reading through the Babymetal Bible there, and I was like, well, that's wrong. And even I could do better than that with my shitty Japanese. And you know what? I will do better than that. And so I scanned, the Mikiko Metal interview.
Yeah.
And I translated it just to see if I could do it. I got some feedback and a few corrections and mistakes. And Capable Paramedic on Reddit, he's a Japanese guy, and he volunteered, to help me out if I wanted, just to make sure that I'm not making any mistakes. And that's really helpful because I'm still kind of rusty. And so we've been basically working together ever since. So I always say that all my translations, I'm here on the podcast today, but I'm only half of the team. He's an invaluable part of it because I'm going to make some dumb mistakes otherwise. So normally is I go through and I translate from Japanese to English, and then he'll go through and make sure that everything's correct. So typically it'll take us a few days to translate a long magazine interview, and then it takes about a week or more to refine it further on to make sure, first of all, that I didn't get anything wrong, but next that we're accurately translating the intent and not just the words. And that's a bit difficult. A lot of it takes cultural context and understanding of Babymetal as a culture too. So yeah, that's how I got started, and that's how things are going.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Awesome.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Because what you just said in your last sentence, it really intrigued me a little bit. You said that not only does it take cultural understanding, but Babymetal cultural understanding as well. That I found really funny because, I would think Japanese is Japanese.
Well,
where do you find that the Babymetal culture needs more like that? I'm actually curious about.
I think I put it this way. Let's see. So first of all, Japanese itself is a very contextual language, right? And then some of the things I think you could say, yes, it might be speculation, but the way they communicate sometimes is they're not necessarily going to say everything outright. There are some things where, let's say, if Moa says something, that might mean something a little bit different just because of the way that she communicates. Where, from the past, we've seen that she's much more, humble or reserved in some regards. So if she says something this way, there might actually be, it's not just what's on the words. And sometimes you could say, it's guessing or speculation, if you want to put a more negative term on it.
So it's knowing Babymetal, knowing the personalities, knowing the relationship between her and Sue. You can actually interpret the words differently.
You might interpret a statement or the mindset behind it differently than if you didn't know anything about her.
Yeah.
I think that's not just for Babymetal. I think it's whatever you're translating, it helps if you actually know the subject matter itself, because some things you might not really know otherwise. Because especially in interviews, sometimes they'll reference, past events, or when they're talking about something, you didn't know what they were going through at the time because they don't spell it out completely in an interview. And that's the same for anything else, right? Like they might talk about in the newest interview, they just said the Budokan was tough their first time around. And that's it. They didn't say anything more. We know that, Moa sprained her ankle and Yui fell and all that, and that explains, some things, but they don't talk about it. So when you see their sentences later on, you have to keep that in mind. And sometimes, you have to strengthen a bit of what they're saying, even though they didn't say it in the words.
How much research does that take then? Because that sounds like a lot of backtracking, a lot of dots and, to drag from different places to try and put into something that's obviously readable and relevant.
Well, yeah. It would be a lot of work, except I'm already in the cult, so I already know that stuff.
Yeah.
Without
it's
any
not
extra
a cult.
effort. So.
It's not a cult.
Hashtag it's not a cult.
No.
Not a cult.
Yeah.
But is that something you get from, like, obviously your side of the community? Funny is do people help you with that? Like if you miss something or
yes.
So how do
like I said before, capable paramedic. He's definitely key there, and he's been a Babymetal fan even longer than I have, and sometimes he'll also provide me with a lot of extra context that's needed to help understand something better.
Yeah.
And so that's sometimes we'll add editors' notes just to make something more clear to people because every person who might be reading this might be a casual fan or wherever, and so sometimes it's worth it just to point things out. Someone in the chat is asking for an example of something I translate differently because of the context, and that's a very good question. I'm gonna try and look one up, but I can't give an answer off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Is seeing that I don't know anything about the Japanese language outside of the katakana, and I know a couple words.
Yeah.
To see that something someone said a week ago, you need to look at as to what they're saying now because it might change. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
One thing I noticed,
the meta of translation is I can definitely talk a lot about that too. That's very, very fun.
So
the difference between Sue and Moa, when Sue answers a question, it's I think she really thinks about what she's gonna say, and usually what she says is very well thought out and kind of profound, and she's because she's the spokesperson for Babymetal. She knows people are listening to what she's saying and that her words have weight because she's the leader of the group, whereas Moa seems to be more carefree with what she's saying and kind of maybe agree with Sue or to talk about food all the time.
Burgers.
Wait, talks about food?
Yeah, but I think it's a more lighthearted and a kind of more of an emotional answer, whereas Sue seems to be very in control of her emotions and thinks about what she says and then she says it, whereas Moa just says what's on her mind. I feel that's the difference between the two of them.
But I think back in 2014 when I became a fan, we already pegged their personalities back then.
Yeah.
We had little nicknames like the Queen, the Angel of Dance, the Angel of Love. We already picked them out. We knew who they were, which is weird.
Yeah.
We actually did peg them.
Yeah, so Brian and I have been fans of Babymetal for for a long time, since 2014. It was the same for you, Brian, was it?
I'm not that nerdy.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, around then. So I guess other people maybe don't know them as long. So like as Funnytoss was saying, like it's good to have the knowledge of people who have been fans for a long time, because maybe they get little references that the girls make in interviews that they don't, really explain, but they just kind of give it as a callback to fans who have been paying attention over the years and referencing back to something that happened, back in the day. So
Yeah,
I think it's a little nugget there for the long term fans.
So also another thing I just want to touch on, funny. Obviously, with the amount of interviews that come out, sometimes obviously the girls could appear on TV, or it could be in a magazine, or it could be in a music ad somewhere, for someone. How do you go around picking what to translate, what interviews to do? Has there ever been like a flurry of like lots of stuff incoming, and you're just like, oh crap, can't translate this all in relatively short time? Like, how, is there a process like what's more important, or what do we think is more important to get out quickly?
I mean, sure, I definitely have a process. And first of all, it's great that because I do this for fun, so at least I don't have the pressure of a timeline. You got to do this by then. I do it whenever I want, and people are happy whenever they want. Great job to have.
Yeah.
But the second way to filter is easy. I translate what I can. I don't translate what I can't. By that I mean I can, because I'm still rusty in Japanese, and I can do written interviews very well because I'm fluent in Chinese. And so the more written kanji there is, the easier it is for me to understand more quickly. But for, let's say, video interviews where you listen to it, I'm totally screwed. Like, well, not totally screwed. Like, I also helped on the 10 Babymetal Years Chronicles, the subtitles for the video interview. But
I did see those.
so
Thank
for
you.
that one, that was a group effort by a lot of people, including some of the SG guys who haven't been, involved in Babymetal for a long time, and they're really like, I did the first draft for a lot of them, but then we spent like a month afterwards, like, going over each sentence, and I saw where translating an interview is really different from translating a video
Sorry,
interview
Brian
and a
is
magazine
drinking.
interview, because video subtitling is just a completely different beast, and I'm definitely not qualified to do that. So for me, it's easy. If it's a video interview, I'll have someone else do it. If it's a magazine, then it's basically if I'm interested in it. So especially when you do a magazine interview, it's like when you're doing press for like a new event, right? You say pretty much the same thing or on the same topic to a bunch of different magazines, and they're all kind of similar. So I don't think it's necessary for me to do each and every single Babymetal interview more than anything than personal enjoyment.
Yeah.
But saying that, actually, a lot of my interviews recently have been all on the similar topic, right? They've all been related to looking back, upon the past 10 years and all that. But I don't know. I think each of them has been pretty interesting. So I think the answer is not as profound as you might think. It's just, how do you choose? Well, I choose the ones that I can translate. And second, I choose the ones that interest me personally.
Yeah.
And it just happens that the ones that interest me personally are the ones that interest the fans. But for example, I just like seeing, the girls of the group from different perspectives, right? So for example, PMC is a group that has been covering the girls for a long time. I think their perspective is closest to what longtime fans might see them, So asking the girls questions, knowing all that context. And then you have the Nylon Japan interview, which is just released, last week. And that one's basically designed for people who have been hearing of Babymetal for the first time, young girls who are into fashion.
I love that
so
one.
We talk a lot about costumes in that interview. And then Anon magazine is also a female-oriented magazine, and they basically ship the girls together every chance they have, and it's really cool to see. You approach an issue or the same group from different perspectives. So yeah, I just translate what I find interesting, and thankfully, most of the one also finds that interesting. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we all thank you for
awesome.
your contribution. Does that work?
Definitely appreciate the work and the effort.
Yeah. Does that work the other way around as well? Have you had any Japanese fans or anything like that maybe wanted English or American interviews translated over to them, or is it mostly the other way around?
I've never had that kind of feedback, but if they did, I just tell them, sorry, man, you're on your own. I can't.
There's actually a couple guys that have been around since 2013 doing that. Baby Metal Eyes on Twitter is one of the biggest ones. He will grab all of the stuff and translate it. As far as the Japanese are covered, they were covered translating us before we got them.
Before we got wise.
No, they've been tight about that. And what
No, they're on the ball. They know what they're doing.
Is how fascinating it is that, and I thought this back in 2015, 2016, that they gave two fucks about what we said. Like, they're so interested in what the Westerners think that they will take Japanese articles, translate it to English, see the English responses, translate that all back into Japanese. It's really kind of.
You have to understand, Brian, though, like that Babymetal, like the overseas, like the overseas fans embracing Babymetal was a huge part of Babymetal increasing their popularity in Japan. Like the Japanese fans, I think they were kind of a little bit, cautious. Do we go like all in with Babymetal? And then like they saw like them tour overseas, and they saw them play like Kentish Town and Brixton, and they saw, metal fans at European festivals and American festivals like really embrace Babymetal. And I think that gave a lot of Japanese fans the kind of, I guess, stamp of approval from like that the overseas metal community had accepted Babymetal. Oh yeah, it was huge. I mean, like, just look at when they did their shows.
Because look at how many of them came over to the shows.
Listen, before they went overseas, Babymetal played Budokan, right? So that's about 10,000 people. After they did the overseas tours, went back to Japan. They were playing the Saitama Super Arena, which is like 25,000. So you saw, like, in the space of like less than a year, they had doubled their Japanese fan base. And they hadn't really done that many shows in Japan. What they had done in the meantime was toured overseas. So I think you definitely saw the growth of their fan base in Japan after they were kind of accepted by the overseas fans. So I think that's why they're interested in what we say, because we're a big part of like the growth of Babymetal.
But I'm talking about the guys that, like, when we were like first starting to see the shows, the original Japanese guys that were touring with them, like Ichi, Poppy, these
the
guys
legends
were already all in. They didn't care about us. They were already all in.
No, I'm not talking about the hardcore fans. I'm talking about like maybe the more casual fan in Japan was like, are these just a Japanese band that are going to, tour in Japan, or are they going to be kind of a global band? So they became a global band when they played Sonosphere, and they played Brixton, and they played Kentish Town. So I kind of think that was a big part of it. Maybe other people don't agree with that, but I definitely think that was like a huge step forward for Babymetal, was their overseas success, and the Japanese fans kind of taking that as a.
What I've noticed a lot.
That article was written in the Japanese music business about Koba doing the reverse import with them. They got them popular in the West just to make them more popular in Japan.
Yeah, definitely, and that would make sense.
Part of the strategy, yeah, of course.
I think that strategy is still going. To be fair, I've noticed a lot probably over the last months that
not so much in recent years.
Well, most Babymetal fans, or most people that I know that knew Babymetal fans, have been new Babymetal fans in probably the last year or two. There's been a lot more people I've noticed now, and that have said that they sort of relatively new in the last year or two than there have been from me personally. This again, because I could be completely off here.
Exponentially, I agree with you. It's growing exponentially.
So that train is still going.
I'm sorry, guys. I have to take care of something in my apartment. I'll be right back.
Not a problem.
Yeah, cool.
Like I was saying, I still feel like the growth of Babymetal for the last two years, new fans. Like I said, I was introduced like a year ago. Funny's just said then you're what 2 years now? Funny, did you say 1 year as well? 1 year fan.
1 year.
I do feel like the allure of Babymetal is obviously, I think it's getting a lot longer as stronger as they're getting older. Probably, maybe when they started in 2014, maybe being obviously little girls, I think maybe it does come across as like a little bit gimmicky. I was exactly the same as Funny. I actually heard Babymetal for the first time in 2014, probably relatively when they first came out. I think I listened to like half a song. I went, well, I was like, what the hell is this crap? put Machine Head back on. 10 years later, well, not quite 10 years later, but freaking 6 years later, here I am. You rediscover them, and you give them another listen, and you're like, oh, it's really, really enjoyable.
I'm the opposite of that then, Neon. Like, I mean, Funny and yourself are like maybe really got into them in the last year or two, whereas like myself and Brian would be like almost 7 years in at this stage. So I guess we have different perspectives on Babymetal because we came to love them at different times. So everyone has to start somewhere. So it's all good,
Yeah. Like I said, I definitely think that the popularity for Babymetal has grown a lot over the last probably last 2 years. I would say probably more in the last 2 years than probably they were when they first probably started. I feel.
Yep.
Yeah, so the growth is still there. I still feel like they've got so much more to do in the West and for Japan as well. I feel like there's so much more potential.
Sorry.
That could be there. It's all right, man. It's okay.
Absolutely.
I want to while you're back with us, Brian. I want to jump back into you, man. How is the wonderful Babymetal journey at the minute? I imagine with everything that's gone on with COVID, this is something I'm really interested to talk to you about.
We're really dead. I mean, I know where they are. They're in Arkansas, America.
Yeah.
So random place.
It was right before the whole thing got shut down that Reddit user Sofrere got them. But also exactly at that point, his dad had a terminal illness.
Oh.
Right. Oh, no.
And so we were just like, we'll wait, whatever. But it was like within a week of us saying, don't worry, hold on to them, take care of your dad, we'll figure something out, where we got shut down.
Yeah.
And he still has them, and his dad did die.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Oh, man. That's sad.
It was inevitable. When he said my dad's in an illness, it was terminal at that point. But he had to go live with his dad, take care of him. So it's just like, leave him there. This is not important right now.
Yeah.
I put up some kind of silly things with the dolls and their masks, just being like, "We're in quarantine," but it's all on hold. And honestly, to me, it would be honestly insensitive and disgusting to celebrate world travel in a time when we can't.
None of us can travel.
That makes sense.
It's not even a matter of we can't; it's a matter of we shouldn't.
Yeah.
The best way for all of us to keep each other alive is to stay alone. Don't spread this. And how can you just celebrate travel in a time where we need to isolate? It protects all of us to isolate.
So how long is that going to be dead in the water then for, do you reckon? Is that going to... is there any plans to maybe kickstart it again? Or are we just looking at... Or is it just on hold indefinitely until...
It's on hold until there's concerts. I think once there's concerts or people are allowed to gather in larger groups, then I'll send them out. I don't think anyone wants to. Also, the idea of this project was go out and take pictures.
Yeah.
Like,
not easy to do right now.
None of us want to send anybody out to go get a best picture at some place that's like photogenic and beautiful that a lot of people go to if they shouldn't be there and would endanger themselves. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a bunch of dolls traveling the world. It's not that important.
Yeah, it's
have you
fun, I guess.
Have you got any more projects then in the meantime since this has been on hold, or is just life just got in the way a little bit?
My life has been my bed and my TV. I mean, honestly, and I'm not complaining, bro. I'm not. Please don't think I'm complaining. But what I do for a living and what I've always done has been large nightclubs and venues. And we were the first shut down in New York City.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel that we should have been the first shut down because we would kill people. I don't care about your political thing, whatever. My honest belief is it's a disease, and if people pass it, they kill each other. I don't mind staying home and losing my livelihood if people live.
Yeah.
Just pay me to stay home. I'm fine.
Yeah.
So,
Sensible.
It is sensible. It is sensible. Well, what about you, Paul? What have you been up to?
Well, I just go to the second part of my Budokan answer. So we had like day 3 and 4, which had just to track back from Dusk Till Dawn and Syncopation. But day 4 and 5 was like more huge changes. So it opened up with Baby Metal Death, a new version of Baby Metal Death, which was like shorter but much heavier and like with more intense growls but no vocals. And it had Sue and Moa on crosses, like coming out on stage. I think maybe Momoko also on a cross, but someone has
Did they
said
come
people
out
have
of
said that I haven't been
crosses?
able to confirm that myself. They were on crosses, and it was like a shorter version of Baby Metal Death, like more heavier instrumentals, more intense growls, but no
I
vocals, and
heard
that was the
I
opening
heard the
of
music.
the
I
show.
heard the music. I didn't see the visuals. Music was intense.
Yeah, there's like bad fan cam footage going out there, but like eventually this is all going to come out on DVDs or Blu-rays. So I guess we just kind of have to wait for the good stuff. Another thing that was different about day 5 and 6 was Onidari Daisasken performed for the first time, I think, since yeah, got it. since since Tokyo Dome. I think since Tokyo
Money,
Dome.
money, money,
And
money.
money, yeah. But it was a completely different version. It was Moa in a solo, but she had four dancers with her, and the dancers were dressed in like the skull hoodies from the old style OD, and the red frilly skirt. And the kind of theme of the performance I've heard was like Moa teaching the younger dancers like how to do the routine or the choreography for Onidari. Now I'm just saying this from hearing this from people I've heard talking about it. I wasn't there. I wish I was, but whatever. And so that was the second surprise on the day 5 and 6, and then the third thing was Akatsuki. So like a Su metal solo with muscle metals with Minami and Minako from 11 Play. They're like these pro dancers. They went on
Love
tour with
that.
Baby in 2018. Yeah, they became
Muscle
known as
metal.
muscle metals because yeah, they had biceps like you wouldn't believe. And they so basically that performance was like a throwback to the 2018 World Tour where Sue sung the song and the Muscle Metals did their dance routine and fight scene and whatever. Also, the performance of Akatsuki was a little bit different. It was like regular Akatsuki up to like 3/4 of the way in, and then it cut to Akatsuki Unfinished, which was like a special version of the song that Stu did on her, I think, 15th birthday. So it cut to that for a few minutes. Like I think the lights went down low and it sort of stopped for a second, and then all of a sudden, like different type of Akatsuki Unfinished started up, and it was like just a beautiful mashup of the past of like 2018 and back to the early days when Sue was 15 and celebrating her birthday in Makohari Mesa, I think it was. So yeah, so like that's what leads me to believe that Budokan overall is like a throwback to the past, and it's not any like commentary on what they're going to do in the future. Because there's so many of these like remember this moment from 2018, and remember this moment from way back in like 2012 or 2013 when they did the first unfinished version. So yeah, that's what was awesome about the last few shows, and the next ones are coming up next week. So we got that was 5 and 6. We got 7 and 8 early next week, and then 9 and 10 will be in April. So that's basically Budokan.
Yeah, Neon. Do you mean
That's what they're doing right
do
now.
you mind if I cross-talked directly to Paul?
How do you mean, buddy? Yeah,
Yeah.
just do it. Just do what you want. Yeah.
Like honestly,
You
Paul,
want to ask a question?
I've seen this as it develops, and it seems like every 2 shows they're giving us one more surprise. Every show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, there seems to be 2 songs that are rotating each show. So
right,
they
and
do
each one has been a
2 shows
surprise.
with the same set list, and it goes in twos. So it
It's
goes
been a
in
big
twos, and
surprise
basically
each time.
and it's building
we
up.
had
It's getting more and more. It's getting more and more kind of crazy and more surprising, and
the
making the
last
fans
surprise
think
was
like,
one of the best ones.
"What's this?" Which
you know,
one?
we got Onidari and a Solo,
Yeah,
you know, that we haven't heard in a while.
that's key.
And now we got 2 more coming up. I think it's in 5 days, isn't it? Or 4 days.
15th. What date is today? Today's the 12th. So in like 3 days' time, Monday or Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, so it's really, really
So
soon.
it's
I'm
pretty
wondering
soon.
what the next surprise will be. But my big question about these shows is Fox Day has always been kind of important to Babymetal since they put out Metal Resistance. When they created it, they've done something every year. Even in 2018, when it was UEB missing, there was a puzzle and a surprise. Now, what's puzzling to me is that they're going to do these Budokan shows well into April.
Yeah, that has to.
And what's going to happen in April, and they've said this, is the end of Metal Resistance. And Koba's lore, and I kind of take Koba's lore as much as I take toilet paper, but there is an amount of lore. And if he's saying that he's ending the Metal Resistance, he's going to do something after this.
Yeah.
Yet these Budokan
Yeah, it's going to be the start of a new era after that.
What do you think is going to happen?
So this is the end of the Metal Resistance era. There's 10 episodes. So after this, there's going to be like something completely different. So I think that people who are watching these shows now and thinking, oh, this is what it's going to be like in the future. I think they're reading it wrong. This is all about what happened in the past. And what happens after this can be something completely different. You know, it could be, you know,
so do you think
don't know what it's going to be.
So do we think this is like Koba just wiping the slate then, starting again, starting something new saga?
Oh, absolutely.
It gives him a chance to kind of to make a big change here, because he can say, well, like, we're doing all of this stuff now with Budokan, and this is all about celebrating the past. It gives him like a complete clean slate to do, like, to completely change it up after the last show of Budokan. And you have Fox Day that Brian mentioned there, like in between the last 2 sets of shows. So Fox Day will come before the last 2 shows. So maybe they can like set up something on Fox Day on April 1st. And that kind of can be, I guess, a hint to what's going to happen in the last 2 shows. And the last 2 shows could be like about like a transition between the old and the new. And like, I don't think they're going to like end like the Budokan shows and like say absolutely nothing about the future, and then just start the future, like, you know, whenever they do shows again, maybe later on in the year. There'll be some kind of transition. I don't know if they're going to show like lore videos, or they're going to, I don't know, make Momoko a full member, or announce something. We really don't know.
What's your take on this, Funny? Because I imagine that with everything that you're doing, you obviously you translate stuff, so you probably understand things a lot sooner than obviously we get our hands on it. Has there been any like hints or anything from any interviews that you've been able to get hold of or translate or anything like that? What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I mean, basically, I've already translated everything interesting that I've been able to find. So basically, everything that I know, you guys should know as well, assuming that you guys have been reading translations, of course.
Yes, I have.
But also part of it is that, as I was saying before...
thank you.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, you can look forward to that. But as I was saying before, you know, most of the interviews have been relating to this 10-year retrospective, you know, so they've all been talking about the past as opposed to what might happen in the future. And of course, in the past, you know, whenever asked about the future, they always say, you know, only the box god knows. And we actually got one of those in Thailand, Japan, finally, after a long time. You know, they asked them what's going to happen. And
the first time in a while.
So honestly, I don't know anything more than you guys do about it, but overall, just from listening to Paul share, especially, I think my thoughts mirror Paul. I know that I think a lot of people were disappointed in the Budokan shows at first, because they're like, oh, it's these same 10 songs, they only change these things. But I think people have gotten, you know, used to it and accepting that, you know, this is an anniversary. You know, it's 10 Babymetal years. We're going to do the same 10 songs every single time and switch it up slightly in a bit. And the whole thing with Fox Day does give them the opportunity, if they want, to do something really weird or special for the 9th and 10th shows. So I agree. I don't think it would be too surprising if the 9th and 10th shows are just something similar in format to what we have now. It's just 2 more different ones, or like the 10 Babymetal years plus BBAB or one new song, not like something completely different. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that they're using this one as a retrospective. They're not completely overturning anything during these 10 shows. It's a mix of, a mix of old and new, but more old than new, as they, I think, make an official goodbye to the past 10 years, and before they make an official beginning into the new one, whether it's, let's say through, Momoko or whoever else as a third. It'd be weird, for example, to have Momoko as a third member announced like on the 4th show. The timing that is kind of off. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah,
it would make sense at the end on either after Budokan or on the 9th and 10th show.
Yeah.
I would honestly think it's going to be awkward if they announce her as a third member, even on the 10th show, because they said they're ending a chapter. Why end the chapter with a new member?
That's a start. That's the brilliant start for a new chapter, though, isn't it? So,
the thing about endings is, and the thing about what new fans, I see new fans thinking that like Babymetal is going to completely end after these shows, because I don't think they understand Babymetal's stick. No, but listen, the Babymetal they love this end of the world shit. They love talking about Doomsday and the final chapter and the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And this is the end or the final battle. They're always talking about this end of the world shit. So newer fans should realize that it's what they do, and there's going to be like a new chapter after this. So calm down, new fans.
I mean, honestly, to me, and you, Paul, you know how much I love Babymetal. I've been all in since 2014. If they ended tomorrow, it's not going to kill me. I got 7 great years.
It would hit me pretty hard, man. I have to say, it would hit me pretty hard. But
I cried when Yui left, but I saw when Ozzy left. I was there when Bruce Dickinson.
I'm too invested, Brian. I'm too emotionally involved now.
Oh, come on, man! You've never been a fan of a band where the lead singer left.
So with
not to this level, no. not to the point that I've traveled to Japan 6 times to see them, and been all over the world and at this shit for 7 years.
I think the difference between other bands and Babymetal is when you think of a standard band, you think of all members equally. Even the guitarists with the singers. So with those type of bands, I think you can get away with replacing the singer. I don't think that's the case with Babymetal. I think the way that the band is so engraved.
I'm gone.
It's so engraved.
You don't mess.
If you look at any of the other Japanese, if you look at the Japanese idol bands, they do that constantly. So this isn't something new.
They can do that, but I can tune out.
As far as Babymetal goes, if Koba leaves or Sue leaves, the band is done.
It's done. It'll be
absolutely
done. But
absolutely.
Sue and Koba,
we're not looking at them being done anytime soon. We're hoping for obviously Budokan being finished and this new chapter.
There's going to be 10 more years, so
hopefully
let's be optimistic.
I don't think it will ever happen. Koba's in all the way. I truly believe this Koba's.
What else is he going to do?
This will be his baby. This is his baby?
Go back to selling ice cream. I think he used to sell ice cream before he started Babymetal or something.
Dude.
What's he going to do without Sue?
He worked for Amuse. He actually was the public relation guys for 3 different bands in Japan.
Oh, really?
Which was basically, it's actually very, very funny. He ran their social media.
That's how much attention I paid to Koba.
And everybody accuses Koba of being a horrible social media guy. That was actually his first job.
No wonder he hates it.
So he seems to be very old school. He seems to be a very old school type character. He's put a lot of focus into social media marketing, and he just kind of does it the old-fashioned way, it seems.
So,
I mean, honestly, I'm 52 years old. I think Koba does things more old-fashioned than I do.
Yeah, maybe.
I think he should get there are ways he could have gotten more in touch with his audience that he ignores all the time. And it's not even about I don't care if he puts the girls out there, but at least do it right. And he does these weird things where it's just like, I'll give you a picture of the crowd and etc. But he could have done so much better with just a little more selling what people want. And you know your band, you know what people want. He doesn't do it. He never gets it right.
Does he though? Does he? Because not to be funny, the thing with Cobra is people say he's never enough, but I always think of Cobra as a man who likes to dangle a carrot in front of everybody, and that carrot is always so close, but it's always out of reach. But you always keep trying to grab that carrot, don't we? We always keep going for it.
Chasing the dragon.
It's like chasing the carrot. Always keeps us invested. For as much as everybody says, he should be doing this, he should be doing that, he should be doing that. We all hang on every single word, every single bit that drops, every little bit of information, anything that comes out. It's like sacred.
I don't think I necessarily, disagree that this is intentional. Like, it very well could be an intentional strategy by Koba. But I think going back to what we were saying about predicting what might happen in the future for Babymetal after these 10 years, I think it's particularly difficult to guess because, for a lot of groups, if you're going to guess what they're going to do next, you got to look at their past, right? Well, how they've done things in the past and use that as data to extrapolate what might happen in the future. But the problem with Babymetal is that for so much of the time in their past, they've been literal children who have been in school at the same time. Sometimes we say, oh, well, why don't you market yourselves this way? Or why don't you do this show? Sometimes it might be as simple as they had a big-ass test that they prioritized over this performance in their life. So sometimes, they might do things, the way they do things is different from another band who are already adults in this full time. So theoretically, they might, now that they've gotten to the age where they might be graduating from university next year or wherever, then they're entirely free. This is their full-time job now. They could very easily do something completely different, go on talk shows or advertising like Perfume does. I'm not saying they would, because of the lore or whatever. My point is they couldn't do those things before because they were still children in school. And so it's hard to predict what might happen in the future just because their circumstances were so interesting, as children and as students and with curfews and so on and so forth. So it might be, Koba's strategy, but maybe Koba's strategy is just meshing together with the circumstances of his band members, and he would adjust as they adjust. Now that they're 23 and whatever, he can he's allowed to do things differently. He might not, he just might be like, old school all the way. But there's other factors beyond, I think, how you might think, well, if I were a manager of a band, what would I do? It's a little bit different when your members were literally children until relatively recently.
I feel like that's a big thing as well. I feel like not only is Koba, but I feel it's the Amuse label in general, probably protecting the girls as much as they can, try and keep them out the spotlight. The internet is a cruel place most of the time. So
As they're now 23 and have a thicker skin or don't have to worry about, being bullied at school, it's different.
Yeah.
See, I was talking about more over this year. If you watch what happened in the past year, like Koba set up that I forget what it was called, the Babymetal network of selling stuff.
Yeah. Shopping network.
And the first time he did it, he had absolutely no English translations. And a lot of fans complained. And he actually did listen. So the second time they did it, it was absolutely translated. And the third time he did it, because a lot of fans complained, it's like, well, didn't we get to see the girls? And I don't believe to pandering to the fans. I agree with Koba on, like, I'm not selling them as objects. But in the third one, he's like, the girls showed up holding them. And then all of a sudden, Su-Metal designed the dog collar. There was money to be made there that he left on the table. Had he not just, and I'm not going to say exploited, but just used the talent he had and the relationship he already built. Just having Sue design a dog collar, I know people that bought that dog collar that don't have a dog or a cat.
Oh, they put it on themselves. They love Sue.
In this time and age, I have no problem with Babymetal making exploitative money off of us because it's just like the world is shit.
Yeah.
And if somebody has some extra money that they want to spend on something and it keeps a band going, spend it.
You know, I actually see that as a positive thing. I'm going to spin that around a little bit, what you've just said, and I'm actually going to say that I'm going to give props off to Koba for that. I think it shows great. I think it shows great integrity for him not to exploit the girls in that way. As much as it is a business, as much as he goes around doing it, the fact that he looks after the girls first and foremost before anything else is, I gotta give him props for that. Because we'd want more, and I think if the girls were under any other label or any other things, it would be thrown in our faces constantly. And I know we sit here and think, oh, that's what we want. We want more stuff. We want more merch. I want more to see the girls more. I want more interviews and stuff like that. But at the same time, like I said, going back to what Funny just said, like the girls as well, being in university as well, their time, they're suffering from burnout, not doing too much. I can only see that as a good thing, as preserving them and their integrity for a longer time as they're growing up as well.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you view. I don't think Sue needs to go to university anymore. She could teach other people. At this point,
like Sue is I think Sue is the most like this is what Sue does. Like she's like all she's ever wanted to do is sing and perform, and like Babymetal, like I know we all love Yui and Moa and every other part of Babymetal, but like Babymetal is like her thing, and she's the leader of this group. She's it's all built around her, and like I think this is her like ultimate goal. So like maybe she does like the college thing or whatever, or university, to kind of have a fallback to that. But like even if Babymetal doesn't continue in this format, I think she's always going to want to be on stage performing. Like this is what she does. This is her like end game thing, and Babymetal is her life. If you read the Nylon interview that Funny translated, Sue literally says like Babymetal is my life. Like I've been doing this all my whole life. I am Babymetal.
Both of them said that.
It is me.
Moa said that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Moa said, I think it was in the interview before that, DMC, or maybe it was the same interview, that she's so dedicated to Babymetal. Like Babymetal is something that she, is so committed to, and she's willing to work hard to keep it, because it's like something that she and Sue have built, and so that's why I just don't think that they're just going to stop, because they've invested so much of themselves and their time and everything into this, and they've built it to what it is now, and I think they're just gonna keep going with it. Like there's no reason to stop. The fans aren't going anywhere. We're still crazy about them. If they announce shows in anywhere in the world, we would drop everything and go. And they love what they're doing, so why not keep going? I think they're really enjoying what they're doing right now. They love performing. They've been dying to get back on stage. They love Budokan. It's the first time in a year that they've been able to perform in front of fans, which is what Babymetal do. Babymetal are all about the live performance. Like if Babymetal can't perform live, Babymetal they're not doing what they're doing.
So
a lot telling the fish not to swim.
A lot of people
perform live.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying, a lot of people in the chat are just saying, obviously, with the going on from what you were just saying then, Paul, a lot of people saying that they could totally see, obviously, the age of where the girls are now. If they were to do like a new era or whatever, they could see Sue stepping up a little bit more. You touched on about her wanting to be like a singer-songwriter. So a lot of people saying maybe in the chat that we could maybe see her step up, writing some more songs, maybe being a little bit more involved in that way.
Definitely.
That's interesting.
You could add that element to it, like
this.
You could get Sue to do, like, if she does her next solo, like maybe she could write it, and that could be her, doing her own thing, and like she says, she always wanted to write songs, so yeah, why not do that? I think fans would like that. They would see that this is coming directly from her, and I think she would do a great job at that too. So yeah, I would love that.
I think I just want to push back slightly. I don't think I'm disagreeing per se with Paul is saying, but I do want to push back a little bit upon what you were saying earlier. I think I definitely agreed that Sue was Babymetal when it began. Definitely, that's how the whole thing started. And if she's gone, it's over and all that. I agree with all that. But especially because, I've been spending so much time on the 10-year anniversary stuff, looking back, and they talked about, especially, 2018 and moving forward, I think that dynamic is beginning to change. It's still a work in progress, where, for example, they had to stop, and people were asking, well, did we know that they considered quitting or whatever, and they decided to move on? I don't think they said it outright, but as they talk about, what is Babymetal, in the midst of 2018 and what it meant to us, because before they were just kind of on autopilot, just doing it, and they were having fun, but that made them stop and the first time and think, well, what is it we want out of it? What does it mean to us? And if we got to figure this out before we're able to move forward, because we now have a chance to see what we want to do. And I think it was after that point, you see, I think Moa's position and her understanding of the band, change. Before she was saying, I'm just enjoying myself on the show. And now she's seeing herself as someone who is invested. She has ownership of the band. It's her responsibility, not just to perform, but to create the culture, where this is how we're going to do things with the Avengers. This is how we interact with each other, and this is how we speak to each other after the show, feedback and so on and so forth. So I think I'd agree that Sue was quote unquote superior to Moa as their beginning because of her age and other reasons. And I think that's still there's still kind of an imbalance there, but I think they've consciously been trying, especially moving towards Budokan, where Moa's relationship towards Sue and within the band itself is becoming closer. It's not there yet, but it's closer to what they're saying is more dual relationship. And I think it's harder, from a Western perspective, Western band perspective, where the front woman or the front person is the most important person. But for a group like Babymetal that's so special, where the choreography goes so far into creating how we feel the song, I feel that dance is almost at least almost 50% of the performance. And if Mo is responsible for doing that and nurturing the talent and teaching others the way that she thinks this is what Babymetal does, I think she's equally important in that culture. I don't think I don't think they're there yet, but they're moving there. So I just want to push back a little bit there and say that I think Moa is growing
just
more
respond to that.
She's not quote unquote more important than Sue, but they're changing the way they do things, and I think that's a good thing, and it's fitting of that as they're both adults.
Yeah, like I actually agree with that, and to a certain extent. Just to respond to Tony's point, so like it said in the recent interviews, I'm not sure which one it was because there's been so many recently, but that Moa kind of took on the role of like more focused on dance, especially with the Avengers. She almost came like a mentor for the Avengers. And I think I read in one of the interviews that like her and Sue talked about like what they were going to do going forward, and like Sue was more kind of comfortable with letting Moa I guess take control of the dance element of things. And she kind of trusted Moa to do that. And Mo played like a huge part in like getting Kano and Momoko and like even Riho, who's a very experienced, great dancer, professional, everything like really helped them. So she said in the interviews that she went from like just kind of going with flow and like taking dance direction from Mikiko and others actually being the teacher and the mentor. So I agree that her role maybe like off the stage has definitely increased. And like in interviews and things like that, she's more so an equal part with Sue. But when it comes down to performance and singing on stage and all of the songs, like she's like the co-dancer along with the Avenger with Momoko. But everything is still, I think, extremely Sue centric and Sue focused. She is still in the performance aspect the lead, the centerpiece, the most important figure. But I agree, Moa is definitely her role off stage and in interviews and within other aspects of things is definitely more closer to Sue than it was before, and they're more even in that sense, but not so much in a performance sense where Moa is more comparable to the Avenger than to Sue on stage, if you know what I mean.
I agree right now, but I'd also say that the way the song works, or the way the feelings work, depends upon the song and how it's written, right? And the problem is even the newest songs on Metal Galaxy were written, in 2018, where there's still so much uncertainty. So let's say you want to raise, let's say Moa's profile or her role and have her do more than be, a glorified Avenger with a mic. you can't really do that.
Oh, well, we've lost him.
Funny.
We've lost Funny. Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's coming back.
Okay.
There, he's back.
Got you back.
Is, what happens on the fourth album, right? Because on the third album, as they're writing it, they still didn't know if Yui is going to be around for a certain portion of it, so they couldn't make it, like, let's say, for example, a full duo because of leaving it open. On the fourth album, if they wanted to, they could do a full duo and make Moa and Su totally equal. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but I'm saying they theoretically could do that on the fourth, where they couldn't do it for Metal Galaxy. So I agree that from what we've seen so far, you're right. It's not, she's kind of, like a Avenger with a mic on the stage, that is.
Yeah.
But again, only the Fox God knows if that's going to be the case going forward. And I don't think all we know is that we don't know for that one. Yeah.
You see, I'd like to interject there before Paul.
Yeah,
I know Paul's going to do an answer quickly. Going back to that one, like I said, for the fourth album with the duo, with more of a duo, or like you just pointed out, I feel like that's a perfect time to either put Moa on that pedestal and do the whole duo thing and make it either concrete, or like I said, they do, like I said, Momoko or whatever happens, or this new scene that they do, and they push forward with that as well. I'll be very, very happy with either of those scenarios for the fourth album, and where they're going. I will say this now, I will be very, very bitterly disappointed if the same thing happens for the fourth album that happened with Metal Galaxy, where it is so Su-centric and there isn't a lot of Moa. Because that's my one criticism of Metal Galaxy. That,
Neon, because like Babymetal have set out, I guess I sometimes reference back to the difference between Legend S and Legend M. Like we remember Legend S as this, huge, big, like massive, elaborate, over the top production, calling Suzuka the new messiah, the new goddess, really putting her on like this massive gold and diamond encrusted pedestal as the this central figure. Whereas you look at Legend M was like extremely low key compared to Legend S. It was like they had a couple of different things. They had the Moa banger and they had the shine with the guitar, but other than that, it wasn't really on the same level. Or so I think the way fans see Babymetal, obviously, like Moa has like so many fans. Like Moa has like more supporters than Su in many cases, and people love Moa so much.
Well, this is it. And, if Koba's listening,
but that's in the eyes of the fans. But in the eyes of Babymetal, I think they're very much still like, Su is the number one, and like Moa is their partnership, but there's a bit of an imbalance there. So going forward for the future for the album, like I would love to see Moa have solos. Like I love Moa, I'd love if she has solos. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be still very Su-centric, and that's why I think it would be really good for Momoko to become a third member, because that would give Moa like a chance to maybe join together in like a duo with Momoko, and like similarly to Black Babymetal, but then Moa and Momoko would have their own songs. And then Su would have her solos. We'd have longer shows again. So I think like the best thing for Moa would be to have a third member, and for them to do their duo thing. Su gets her solos, and like keep going that way. I can't see like Babymetal ever being a true duo, because there's too much of an imbalance. You're not going to get 50% of the vocals for Moa and 50% of the vocals for Su, when Su is obviously the vocalist, and let's be honest, she's a far superior vocalist to Moa. So
so
I don't know. I don't think you can. I don't think it's ever be
an idea.
What's that?
It was Koba's original plan.
What was?
The Koba's original plan was a triad that was formed around Su. Su was the apex, and then you had, it was just an original plan. Guys, I'm really, really sorry. I'm having an issue at my house. I got to take care of my roommate for a second.
That's
so I'm gonna have to drop out.
That's fine.
I'm really, really sorry.
That's fine, man. Take care.
No worries, man. Nice to have you.
Thanks for serving us, man.
Take care, man.
I told you my roommate had surgery last week, and I'm taking care of the dog, and
Oh man, go take care of it.
It's all right, man. Go take care.
Nice having you.
Take care of it.
Talk to you again.
All right.
Thank you so much, man.
I'm sorry.
It's
Take
all right,
care, man.
Take care, man.
See you. Bye.
See you.
See you.
Disconnecting.
So, I mean, if
We can
we
still see you,
want
man.
to actually move away from speculation, which is what we always do, I have a few more stories about translating.
This is pure
in case you guys
speculation, by the way. Okay, I don't know what's gonna happen, but whatever. So yeah.
You still with us, Brian? Yeah, there we go. He
Hey.
sussed it.
And then
But
there
yeah,
were 3.
enlighten us, Funny. Enlighten us, please, man. Any information is
So-
good information.
So some
Yeah,
of this is not. So again, I do want to get back to the question someone was asking earlier. About how might you change translation? It's not just language to language, but to do that, I think I'm just going to assume that everyone reading the chat or whatever doesn't necessarily have experience with translation. So I'm just going to first lay the groundwork for that before I go into how does that apply to Babymetal overall. So I think the first thing to understand, again, this is just me speaking. There are different theories of translation, different styles to do it, of course. So this is just from my experience, and this is not the only way to do it. But the way I see it, there's no such thing as a perfect or objectively correct translation. Like, to put it simply, unless you're translating something like a user manual for a TV or something, you need to balance between one, translating literally, and two, translating something that feels natural in the new language. And that's always something that you balance, and there's no perfect balance.
Yeah.
So I'm old enough, I'm 33 now. I'm old enough to have observed this interesting phenomenon when it comes to Japanese manga translated into English. So here you have a situation where the translation of the translator is intentionally visible. By that I mean, for a lot of manga, people want to see now the original meaning to a certain extent, and thus you have their names, for example, they're not westernized. In the past, when Pokemon was first brought to America back in the 90s, sometimes a character originally called Satoshi is changed to Ash. It's completely different.
I
but
didn't
now
know that.
you see that's less common. They didn't change Naruto into Nathan, right? Naruto. That's changed. So the culture changes based upon what people want. So rather, for many things in translated manga, they keep the original word and instead provide footnotes in the end to provide context, rather than try to find the English equivalent if it doesn't exist. Obviously you try to find an equivalent, it's there. So of course, there are some exceptions, depending upon the market and the manga itself. Notably in Pokemon, rather than keep the word, onigiri, rice balls, they switched to the donuts. That's a very well-known weirdness.
Yeah.
But when it comes to translation theory, I think the ironic part about translation is that the more invisible the translator tries to become, the more the original author's voice is lost. So a literal word-for-word translation is really clunky, awkward, and probably grammatically incorrect. And that's not the feeling that the original audience got when they're reading the text. So obviously this is an extreme. No one translates literally. Google Translate can do that, but people don't do that. But it goes to show that a translator must, to a certain extent, you have to reword things so that it makes sense. And so to be good, you actually have to really understand the original text and then create a new voice for the author, and something that's in your own style. So that's why I said, sometimes translating for a group, let's say Babymetal, it helps to be a Babymetal fan, just because that helps you understand the intent of the author. If it's the girl speaking, if it's Moa speaking, then it helps when you understand Moa, because it helps you translate her words into an English intent, as opposed to being stuck on her literal words. But some people have a problem with that. They're saying, well, no, don't put meaning there where it's not written, and I get that too, and that's a perfectly legitimate way to do it. So it's difference of style. So an interesting example I like to share is, I don't know if you're familiar with the English version of Azumanga Daioh. It's not important if you know that one, but in that manga, there's a character from Osaka, and the stereotype is that people from that area, the Kansai area, they all speak in a Kansai Ben. They have a slightly different accent, or they use different words than standard Japanese. So she speaks in a little different dialect, and the way they translated that into English in the anime was by giving her somewhat of a Boston accent. I don't think that fits perfectly, in my opinion, but the spirit of it makes sense. I think they chose the Boston accent because it's not as subtle or hard to notice as the American, Midwest or West Coast accent, but it's not as heavy as a Southern drawl. But in any rate, this is a good example of creativity in translation. It helps to preserve the original intent of the author, if not the words. So on a related note, we see this with Babymetal as well. It's interesting that sometimes a lot of Japanese songs will use English words in them, sometimes kind of randomly, and sometimes it makes sense in the context of the song. So what's fascinating is that at a certain level, the English used in those songs is its own language. It's actually an expansion of the Japanese vocabulary, even though technically it's in English, but it's not actually English, if you know what I mean. Because this word can mean something different to Japanese people and mean something different to native English speakers, even though it's technically the same word.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're translating Japanese lyrics, of a song to another language, what should you do? Let's say you're translating a song from Japanese to English, and there are English lyrics or words in the song in the Japanese version. If you just directly bring the English over without translating, then something's actually missing because the context is different. So, in other words, the very scenario
There's something on that,
feeling
Stephen,
of
and
seeing,
keep going because it's really interesting. But you mentioned about like people wanting like Pokemon to be, I guess, anglicized or turned into an English version so people could enjoy it. And not so much now with modern day anime. I think with Babymetal, they do their songs in Japanese, and like I don't think there's any call from overseas fans for them to start doing more English songs. We love them because they're different, because they're Japanese, and we love when they sing in Japanese. Generally people didn't like the English version of Elevator Girl. They like when Babymetal sing in Japanese. They like even the version of the one who sings the one in Japanese. It's better because it's more them. It's more authentic. It's more Babymetal. So people love them for who they are. They don't need to become more English. They don't need to sing in more English to please their fans, because we love them for who they are. And people love Naruto because it's Japanese, and they love that element of it. They love the amazing animation of that they do in Japan, and all the music and everything that goes into anime, which makes it so special. People love it because it's Japanese. They don't want it to be, kind of turned into something English that's, less cool, and they want to keep it genuine and real.
See, that makes me
really.
That makes me really want to learn the language so I could go back, because touching again back on the anime things. Like one of my favorites is Dragon Ball. Watching the anime, I actually read the manga as well, but obviously I have a English translated version of that. So like even between the anime and that version is vastly sort of different. I would love to know the difference probably between the English version of what's been translated in from like Japanese, and see like just how much the same thing probably translates to be something different.
That's why I actually keep the Japanese text in my translations. I think most translators don't do that. I don't for whatever reason. I do it mostly because I do want to give the option for someone who has the ability to go through and compare, and because a different person going through, they will translate differently, and I think that's perfectly legitimate. So I keep it there, and just for them to see, what's the difference? How might I translate it? Oh, this person translated this way. That's interesting, and so on and so forth. I think over 60% of the visitors on my blog, for some reason, are from Japan, which I found fascinating. It's like, you guys could already see these images. I think maybe they're just pirating it because they didn't buy the back magazine, but they can see the text in Japanese. I don't know. Or they're curious, because they all learn English growing up, and they're curious to see, how is this translated into English by this random dude, And so they're curious. I don't know what reason it is, but 60% of my viewers.
That's really interesting.
Could read
60%.
Have you ever clashed with somebody funny? Have you ever translated like an interview or something from Babymetal, maybe gone online and found maybe somebody else that maybe has done that as well? And have you ever like compared? And it comes a little bit different. So
someone, I think there's a Tumblr, blog called Babymetal Translations. I think that's a girl who's doing translations, and she, covers a lot of the same material, as I do, because that's all the material we have, because they starve us for content and leave us wanting. But so she translates a little bit differently, than I do. I think overall what I've seen is that her style is a bit more faithful to the original text. As I was saying before, this is the issue of style. I try to first completely absorb the original content, and then when I translate it, it's as if I was saying it, as opposed to trying to be more invisible. So a recent example I had was in the last example I was talking about in Doki Doki Morning. There's a part in the choreography where they fall down onto the ground, and the first time the audience didn't know what was going on, and then the audience is worried. Oh, are you girls all right? Like that's something they said. The word I used instead of fall onto the ground, which is the literal, that's how it was in the Japanese. I used the word faceplant. And I think I'm still not sure if that was the right decision. But and someone asked me about it, and I'm not entirely sure either, because that goes back to intent, where even when the word literally says fall down, but is that what it feels? If the feeling is supposed to be kind of funny and kind of humorous, maybe the word faceplant works better because that creates the intent. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier. What did the original Japanese audience feel when they were reading this Japanese text? And sometimes you got to change that up. So, for example, as I was saying earlier, with the Japanese song that has English in it, if you just directly bring the English over and just not translate it, when you just don't change it at all, when you translate this song into English, then something's actually missing, given the context is different. So, to repeat the point, let's say if I were to translate that song, I might turn the English part into French. So the song will be in English, but the parts that were in English, I turn them into French, because that preserves the feeling of the exotic feeling of English within the song as perceived by the Japanese people. Now, of course, that could seem absurd, right? You're literally creating something that wasn't there in the first place. So again, there's no real or right answer for this, but that's just those are some of the things that a translator might take into account. Stop me if I'm rambling too much, but
I'm really enjoying this.
Man,
really
I'm
early
so
on
interested
in
in
the
what you're
stream,
saying.
someone was asking, how does your understanding of Babymetal affect how you might translate some of their things? And sometimes it's not that, okay, well, I'm going to translate this sentence this way because I know what Mo is actually thinking. No, I don't have that kind of confidence. But it does affect the way you see them and how you reinterpret their voice. So the reason why, we spend like, 2 weeks, I spent like 3 days translating and like 2 weeks, revising it, because a lot of time is spent on discussions. It's not because what I wrote wasn't necessarily wrong the first time around, but it's discussions with the Japanese Babymetal fan who knows them very well, or at least can provide me more options when I'm choosing the correct voice. And so we were actually revising a lot of it. So for example, there was the Hedoban interview where they're talking about past issues. And in that one, it was really interesting because when they're talking about the past, Moa kept saying that she's forgotten a lot of the past, a lot of past shows.
She said she forgot everything.
Right. And, so we were discussing that, and, Capable Paramedic, he's like, okay, so how do you interpret this? Does she actually forget these things? Or is she saying this because she doesn't want to talk about it? Or this is how she's framing the issue so as to set up the shows in the future? Like, you don't necessarily take her words at face value, because that she doesn't actually have memory deficit. She can talk about other things from the past.
That's part of the law, though, isn't it? As well, that they forget.
She can remember some things from some shows very clearly, but it's also possible that she doesn't remember some things because of trauma or wherever, right? So that's an example of something where it doesn't change a word per se, but it makes you think, okay, well, this girl, she's smart, she knows show business. What she says sometimes can be calculated for a certain effect. And based upon that, how do I interpret the words? Should I just translate them as the words they are? Or should I impose some more meaning on it that could be, again, half speculation, as you say, but half, reasonable guess based upon what we know of their personality, from the past. Another example is, because in Japanese, there's a lot of ambiguity from culture. There's this word, jibun, which can mean either myself, but it can also mean us.
Yeah.
And so that happens a lot, where they might respond in a question, and they might say, jibun ka, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, okay, well, should I translate it as I or we? And so sometimes you have to put the context. Okay, so sometimes it's obvious, when Moa is talking about, having to work with the Avengers and teach them, okay, I got to use I. But when she's talking about, okay, so, visiting karate after so many years, this song is about fighting inner demons. well, is she speaking for herself or is she speaking for BabyMetal as a whole?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing you're never going to get a clear answer just from the text, because the text will let you go either way.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing where you have to know the band from your perspective to think, okay, I think she's speaking for both herself and Sue here, and here she's speaking just for herself. And so those are like examples of the things where you have to make a judgment call as a translator, and it's not always going to be right. You could be wrong.
Have you and your partner ever clashed on something like that? Have you ever seen like an interpretation for something and you've maybe thought one thing and he's maybe thought another? How do you come to like an impasse there for those situations?
I think it depends upon the nature of the clash, if you want to call it a clash. So as I said, I'm still pretty rusty, so sometimes I'll just completely misinterpret or get things wrong. And if that's the case, well, yeah, totally. If he tells me what it is, then I do it. But he often will give me a suggestion or a suggested alternative way to translate it, but I rarely ever use it directly because I want to make it sound more natural, but to an English speaker, even at the risk of sometimes losing some of the literal words, as I said, face plant as opposed to fall on the ground.
Yeah.
If you look at Capable Help Paramedics, because he has posted some of his own translations on Reddit as well, and so his style, whether it's because he's native Japanese as opposed to my native English, his style tends to be more literal, and the way he says it is because he doesn't mind if the viewers don't feel natural when reading it. Like for me, when you read my interviews, I think hopefully you feel that this is being spoken by someone, by, let's say, an American girl in terms of language ability, not that culture, but in terms of language, it feels very natural. You don't think this is being said by a Japanese girl. But the way
can I respond to a point that you made about Moa? So just to respond, like you mentioned about translations, and like I've read pretty much all of the translations that you've done, Stephen, and I really appreciate them.
Sure.
Moa, in terms of what she says, and like interpreting what she says, and when she says she kind of doesn't remember the past, what I've gathered from your translations and just I guess from Moa's attitude in general is that she's very much focused on what Babymetal are doing now and looking forward. And like I don't believe that she doesn't remember these things. I think she's saying that she doesn't remember because she'd maybe rather not talk about them, or there's things in the past that maybe she'd rather not talk about, and she's focused on her and Sue now and Babymetal going forward. She says like we are Babymetal now, and people should be focused on us and focus on what Babymetal is doing now. So that I think that's her thing. Maybe things happen in the past that she'd rather not speak about. Maybe that involves former members. We don't know. But Moa, I think she's like, let's focus on what Sue and I are now and what we're going to do going forward. Whereas Sue seems more kind of open to speak about past, and she'll like mention like Yui in a more kind of, I guess, positive context. She'll talk about her being like still part of Babymetal family, whereas when Moa is kind of faced with similar questions about Yui in the past, she will kind of say,
she kind of dodges
I'm focused on the past, or sorry, no, I'm focused on now and the future, and us now. So maybe she'd rather not talk about Yui so much, or about the past in general. So I think there's maybe a bit of a dynamic there. I guess I don't want to speculate that there's any rift between Moa and Yui, but I think Sue approaches that question in a different way. She kind of takes it, whereas Moa kind of, she might say in response to that, well, the bond between me and Sue is stronger now. We're moving forward as a group, and I want fans to focus on us. Whereas Sue seems to be a bit more like diplomatic in her answer. I don't know. That's interpretation. Like, how do you interpret that as a translator? Do you feel like there's anything like different to how Moa approaches questions about the past and maybe former members versus Sue? And do you think that says anything about the dynamic between the members and and their thoughts on past versus the future. Or what do you think?
I think at the end of the day, I think I'm much more careful about this kind of speculation, partly because, again, we know that this is a commercial product. The interviews are all commercial products. So everything that they say in the interview theoretically is still approved by them for a certain purpose, So I hesitate to say that, whatever word I need to read too much into something like this, or that might create this speculation, because again, everything is something that is designed to create a certain image. I don't mean it's fake.
Right.
The image that you give out might be, what my actual personality is. But
Right.
it can be edited. It's not off the cuff. It's not us talking on a podcast right now unedited. Everything in a magazine is edited. And theoretically, if Koba sees something that's no good, or Moa sees something that says, okay, no, that's not what I was trying to say. I want to change that. They can do that because it's not live.
Okay.
So I think I'd hesitate to speculate, but I think a lot of the quote unquote disagreements or whatever, all of that happens before you release translation. And that's why we discuss everything for 2 weeks, or even the longest record was 3 weeks after I was done with the first draft before coming out. And sometimes that's just between the two of us. The why I said there's no clash is because we already work it out, well, this is what I think, this is what I think. Well, why is that? We discuss it, and we always come to either a compromise or an understanding where either he didn't understand why I chose this word and I explain it, and then, okay, he didn't know that English word. Okay, that makes sense. Or I didn't know the context of this, and you shouldn't reword it this way because that's misreading it. Okay, I changed that. Other than those two situations, he generally defers to my style of translating, so there aren't really any real clashes. But we have pages of translators' notes for every single one, and a lot of discussion happens within those that it might be interesting for people to know, but I can't add them to the translation itself because then it just goes on forever. I have an example here from my notes upon the Nylon Japan one that just released recently. They were talking about Ijime Ame Tai, and then Moa says IDC was the next song to be written after Doki Doki Morning, so I was quite happy when it was finally released. My strongest memory of this song was Legend S, Hiroshima. The audience completed the song for us, and we created the atmosphere. So I remember it as not one that we performed by ourselves, but rather together with the fans. Okay, so that's the line, and Paul talked about that line. That was really cool. And so as we were discussing it, though, Capable Paramedic, he said, he says, this is not really translation, but I hope that those who read this part would not pay too much attention to the fact that Moa did not mention Yui's absence concretely. He mentioned, so he said that to me, and I said to him in response, I'd say that I think she's solidified her public response, responding to this topic, and has stayed quite consistent. I don't know if we'll ever know for certain if her refraining from mentioning Yui as much as Sue in interviews is due to anger or out of respect. If Yui wants to disappear, then I shouldn't mention her because people will never let go, right? So without further knowledge, though, I suppose that we can only take her words on the issue at face value. And for example, in Kadokawa, she says that she supports Yui moving forward, and so we have to work upon that assumption moving forward. So if she's not talking about Yui, then she's doing it because she feels it's better for Yui. She could be lying, but absence of other evidence, you just take what she has as face value. So for whatever reason, she thinks that not mentioning Yui too much when unnecessary is better for her or better for Yui. Whereas Sue has a different decision. For Sue, for whatever reason, she thinks, I'm perfectly fine, name dropping it, whatever. She doesn't bring it up intentionally either. So that could just be the way they want to do it. But these are just examples of how we discuss things, and sometimes that will affect the end result, the end words that come out, and sometimes it has no effect on the actual translation, but it's just stuff to think about that helps make, I think, the translation feel closer and more real to the fans reading it, as opposed to one done by a corporate translation agency that might be really good at Japanese and really good at English, but doesn't know the band or doesn't love the band as much as we do. So there's always the different thing. As I said before, there's no such thing as a perfect, translation. But I like to think that ours are better in some ways, subjectively, just because we're cultists.
So just on that point about Legend S and Moa's answer to that question, I think the question was what was her best memory of IDZ, and you're what you said. She mentioned the performance at Legend S. So I guess if you're looking at from the like the two standpoints there, that she doesn't mention Yui as much out of respect for her because she doesn't want to be mentioned. She's left now, versus maybe not mention her because she'd rather not talk about the past and she's focused on her and Sue. If you take it from the first perspective, you could see that she's saying that because that was the first time they did IDZ without Yui. So I suppose that could be seen if you're looking at it from the maybe the negative standpoint, that saying, like I don't want to tell you about memories of IDZ, before that when we were with Yui. I want to tell you about a memory of when it was just me and Sue and we were doing IDZ, and because that's her vision of Babymetal now and the one that she wants to promote and build and work on going forward. So that's one side of things. But on the other side, it could be like, Yui doesn't, out of respect for her, I don't want to mention this too much. So I'll just say an answer there that represents IDZ, but represents it just with the Babymetal we have now, Sue and Moa. So I think there's kind of two ways of looking at it. The right answer is probably somewhere in the middle. I don't know how do you feel about that?
Well, something else that leads me to speculate or believe that there's no bad blood or wherever is because the Kadokawa interview that we first started, part one of the interview covers 2010 through 2014, and that was very formative. That was when Yui and Moa talks freely about Yui in that section, about their first memories, holding hands in the recording booth and whatever, and enjoying shows together, crying together, after Wembley and all that. So she didn't avoid, if she was pissed off at Yui, she could easily not have talked about those past memories so fondly. So that leads me to believe the reason why she's not talking about Yui in context now is because she thinks, this is better, or this is what Yui wants. And she could be wrong. Maybe that's not what Yui wants, but that might be what she thinks. And, I was saying regarding, Legend S, there's two ways to do it, because she didn't say, when we did it because we were missing a member. She just kind of assumed the audience knew that they're missing a member, even though it's nylon, and they might not have known that, or that she didn't feel it's necessary to highlight it. When she says the audience completed the song for us, if you're a viewer who didn't know a member was missing, you might not even know what she was talking about. She just said the audience was awesome. And so what I'm saying is she refrained from drawing special attention to the fact that Yui was missing. And as a translator, he was wondering if we should read something into that, and I was thinking, I don't, not necessarily, So.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
So
like what she said about the audience being great is so true, because mini flex here, I was at Legend S, so I would have been part of the that audience that helped out with those songs, and Metataro, when Yui has a part, we sang that as well. So that was an amazing moment. So Mo was so right that the audience really came to them behind Babymetal's back there when they were missing a member, and were the fans were the third member at that show. So that was awesome, and it was a great answer, to the question. So definitely appreciate that from Moa, that recognition that the fans and that IDZ was special, And it was. Yeah. I'm not surprised she remember. She doesn't. I'm not surprised that she remembers that as a great memory, because it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. People in the chat are saying that this is the podcast now.
Fuck you in chat. I'm going to mute myself for the rest of it.
No, they were just saying, literally the chat's been absolutely fantastic. I just want to say a big shout out to everybody and everybody listening. There's been a lot of positive comments. I know that Funny was telling us before we were coming on about how he likes to talk, and he hopes people won't get bored of him. Well, I can honestly tell you, Funny, that I've just been reading the comments then, and everybody's such positive comments, man, from you, just saying how interested people are from the translations, the way that you've been speaking, how they didn't realize that, and how they agree, how people that obviously from Japan and that side of the world. Totally agree with what you're saying with the not a perfect translation and everything there. So it's really, really good to see people that are kind of know a little bit about translations and the people that have absolutely no idea. Both of them are getting something really, really valuable information out of this, and they're finding it really interesting. So that's
if you have any more questions, like, because I've already basically gone through everything that I had written on my notes. I did a few outline of what I think I have to talk about to make sure. But everything else, like, if anyone has any questions, if Neon or you guys have any questions about translation or otherwise, I'm happy to.
We'll get on with the podcast for a little bit because we are like I said, we are eating up time a little bit. But what we usually do, Funny, is usually at the end for the last like half an hour of the show, I usually ask the audience then if you got any questions and stuff like that, and then we'll rifle through them. This is now Paul's time to flex because I want to move away from Babymetal just slightly. And onto Sakura. There's Sakura guy, Chris. So go on, Paul, pull it out. I know you want to. He's been waiting for this. He's been waiting for this all the time.
The book.
The book. Well, where's he put it? He's like, there we go. So the new SG book has been out. I have been reading some.
So it's an awesome book. You open Japanese books from the back. It opens like this. So it's weird, but yeah, I guess what everyone was focusing on was this little piece.
Yes, the Yui one.
Yui's first words in 2 years and 4 months. So yeah, that I guess that's the most recent thing was like we heard from Yui for the first time in 2 years and 4 months, and they all had like 7 questions, and they all answered the same 7 questions. So, like, Yui's was probably the first one to come out from translators. I made a very amateur attempt at translating it using a Google Lens and DeepL. A much more amateur setup than Stephen has. But I just wanted to really understand quickly what she was saying, rather than like waiting for a professional translation to be done. And I kind of shared that around the community a little bit. So I think at this stage, anyone who was interested in knowing what she said knows what she said now.
Yeah.
So I guess there's no point really saying what she said.
Is that something maybe you'll jump into, Funny, at some point with the Sakura Gaiku stuff?
No.
No, you got no interest personally, or even for the.
No, it's just that. No, because SG thankfully has a much more, because they don't starve us for content. They release stuff much more regularly. So SG has a much more vibrant translation community. Many of them are objectively speaking better than I am.
Yeah.
And so I figured there's no need for me to jump in and translate it because they're going to do a better job of it without mistakes or whatever. So for SG, it's not because I like SuzukaYuiMoa, not as much as Babymetal, but I love it. But I'm going to wait for people who are better than me to do it because I know they exist. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough, my man. Fair enough, my man.
I just did it partly because no one else was doing it. If there are a lot of great translators for Babymetal doing it, I'm just going to have you to read it, and I'm good. But it just kind of happened because no one else was doing it. As more people doing it, I think that's great. And I love to see more people translating Babymetal, just to see different styles and stuff like that. Yeah.
So what were your thoughts then, Paul, on the first words from Yui? Because I know that she sort of stole the show a little bit here, because as much as Sakura Gaiku, and obviously everybody's been looking forward to this book, as soon as we knew we got a little bit of Yui content, a little bit, I think most people, that was the sole kind of focus. So what did you take away? What did you take away from that? Is that was it as satisfying as you sort of hoped it was? Does it feel a little bit corporate?
No, it's pretty much what I expected. I didn't expect any big revelations or any bombshells. I expected it to be pretty generic in the sense that it would her kind of talking about her time in SG and like thanking the members and the staff and Fuke, the fans, without really saying anything. I think anyone who had expectations that she would talk about Babymetal or make some big revelation of what she was going to do in the future, or like had their expectations like way too high. So it was, I think, but at the same time, I think Yui fans weren't really kind of in what she was I don't want to say that right, but the content of what she said wasn't the most important thing. It was that they heard from her for the first time in 2 years and 4 months. It didn't really matter what it was.
It didn't matter what it was. It was just
it was some sign of, Yui is, this is what she says. She's saying words. She's alive. She's okay. That's the main thing that people wanted from it, I think. After that, everything else is gravy,
Yeah.
So like the answers, like, I don't know if you want to run through it briefly, like with the first question, like, this is the same questions were the same for everybody. So the first line was like, what are your best memories of SG? So she said that her best memory was doing the Friends music video and going on a like a school trip to film the Friends I guess music video, and how much fun that was. That was kind of her first answer. The second one was like, which oh, sorry, let me have a look, see what it was. The second question.
Sorry, I'm gonna take 1 minute to piss. Just please continue.
Yeah. Not a problem, man. Not a problem. Good.
Nature calls, man. So things that make me laugh when I remember them now. When I look at what she said, I don't know. I've it on my phone here. Did you see this, Neon, or do you know what I'm referring to?
I haven't read the SuzukaYuiMoa ones yet.
Yeah.
No. I literally
Yeah,
read,
so basically-
I literally went on a mad marathon and read all of Funny's translations today.
Yeah.
But I didn't get around to the SuzukaYuiMoa ones yet.
Yeah. So to that answer, she basically said that when she listens to SG songs, she smiles and remembers the time she made eye contact with the girls on stage, and that's a fond memory for her in terms of like a memory of SG. No, that's what makes her laugh, when she remembers what happened. And then, like, there's other questions there, like, if you were to speak to yourself in SG now, what would you say? That was a question. Then, what have you learned during your time in SG, that you can use now? So that was another point. What kind of super lady do you envision? So the whole dynamic of SG is that it's a period of growth. So they're growing from being kids to becoming super ladies, or like an iconic woman that they think to be. So that was one. And then the last one was a message, just a general message to the fans on the anniversary, and what to take from that. So basically all of the members answered the same questions.
Yeah.
So Yui's answers were, I guess, interesting, but not revealing. Like, nothing, I guess.
Well, I think it goes back to what Funny said.
People,
It's like, for these things, it's probably heavily vetted. It's probably been through the ringer of what she probably could or couldn't say.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think we realize, and you have to set your expectations at a certain level. She obviously couldn't say a lot of things. She's not going to talk about Babymetal. She's not going to talk about her future. She's not going to talk about what's happened. She's going to just talk about SG specifically, and there's going to be no.
I don't think anybody expected
hot topics
that.
So you can't really expect that. So to answer the original question, it was good. It was pretty much what I expected. I'm happy to hear from Yui for the first time in a long time, and like, I wish her only the best going forward.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Well, there you go. It's just generally nice to hear from Yui at all, really. To be fair, hopefully we'll hear some more bits of information. Right, as we get further into the show, I'm going to dip a little bit more into speculation now, more than what information we got. And I'm gonna torture Funny first. Yay! For the future of Babymetal, my friend. Obviously, you've been a fan now, obviously, for a year. With the Budokan shows coming to the end, and this next stage, whatever it may be, what would you, as a fan, what direction would you like them to go in?
I think people were right when they were saying that the triangle is the strongest formation. I think the ideal was, back when, like, I'm a fan who loves Metal Galaxy and the new era, and appreciates, everything after that. But I think it's undeniable that when, it was all three of them, that they were at their strongest, just in terms of balance or wherever, despite the fact that they've done as good as they could under the circumstances. So I want, more Moa and whatever. I love her and all that, but like we were saying before, I don't think a pure duo concept is the best, just because there's always that weird feeling where you have two people in interviews and three people on stage, and that's just not as ideal, long term. So I think what I do want to see long term is something resembling, some person, not necessarily Momoko, but she's great, some person given a relatively equal position to Moa, where they can bounce back and off of each other as she did with Yui back in the day, if only because that provides you with more creative possibilities. Because right now, again, we don't know where they're being constrained because they're all performing songs that were still written either during the Yui era or during the uncertainty era, But I think I have optimism for how they're going to proceed in the future, just because we already seeing hints of that in Metal Galaxy. So what I mean by that is they've already tried to adjust in Metal Galaxy to Yui's departure. They couldn't change too much just because something is set in stone. You got to schedule it to adhere to or whatever. But I think they're not tone deaf to the fans, is what I'm saying. They adjust as they can, which gives you hope for the fourth album that can be starting fresh. So, for example, Kagero started as a solo, and it might have always stayed as a solo if Yui came back or whatever, but she didn't, and then they changed it into a trio dance, which I think they might not have done otherwise. Or if we're talking about the new song, they don't have so much of the ainotes that they had in the past. The sore, 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 or where Moa would bounce back in Yui, but they have more backing vocals for Moa than they did before. In some ways, I feel like Moa actually has a stronger role, vocally speaking, in Metal Galaxy than before. Like, you don't hear her voice as distinctly because her voice used to have a stronger contrast, because she's just yelling in the past, scream and dance. And so that has you hear her voice obviously. Yeah. Whereas in Metal Galaxy, there's a lot of harmonizing, or it's a lot of some back and forth lines with Sue, So we're talking about Shanti, 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 she opens with the Shanti and then Sue comes back around. Shanti, Shanti, da 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 da. Shanti, Shanti, that's Moa again. And then, aja, 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 aja. There's a difference in voice, That's something you didn't when it was a trio. But you had that when they were a mini duo in Metal Galaxy. So those are the kinds of things that lead me to believe that they're not as stubborn as we think, Koba is, and that they're willing to change things up, and they already have been changing things up in Metal Galaxy, but they were just constrained because they needed to release an album and they couldn't change things too much at the last minute, and maybe they didn't know exactly when Yui was done for good, so they had to leave a spot open. So you have Metal Galaxy, which, love it or hate it, it's a mix of different circumstances, So some earlier songs written might be basically trio format, and then, or uncertainty format, whereas some of the songs written later on, perhaps let's say Arcadia or Shine were written probably later on. They already knew Yui was gone at that point, and they're designing differently. Seeing Shine makes you think it was written as a duo from the beginning, and we could see when a song is written as a duo song, as in Legend N, when they perform Shine for the first time, it's great, it's powerful, they can do it. Yeah. So I think sometimes when we criticize Babymetal for being weird and being in a weird position, Moa is just an Avenger with a mic. I agree with all that, but part of that is just the circumstances. Like, that's just what they can do under now. I don't think they're stuck doing that. They've only been stuck doing that for now on this album, but they can do what they want for the next album. And so what I want to see, though, as I said before, is again, if they go, I don't think every single song they could do, duos like they did with Shine. But I think the strength of Babymetal lies in the fact that they're willing and able to, with a great songwriting team, to hit upon so many genres, and that requires versatility. And you have less versatility with a duo, and you have less versatility when you constrain yourself this way. The more options you give yourself, the more you can actually try and explore. And I think they have more options with a third member. Now, of course, there are cons to this. Like, third member will never be fully equal to them, and I understand that, but I think that's just from a creative perspective, from a performance perspective, it helps them to have a permanent third member and to have that set up right from the beginning of the fourth album.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, like you say about like Shine there as an example of the like a true duo in Babymetal, but I think that was purely for like a one special occasion, which was Legend M, because like the next performance Shine, which was at sorry, I think it was LA Forum, and then they did it at Metal Galaxy World Tour Japan, and then LMG was a trio version. You know, they did it each of those times with either Riho or Momoko as a third person. So Shine, like I think that was just one like special version of Shine, and then Shine it's been a trio ever since, and that's probably the vision of Shine going forward. So I think I answered the question that Neon asked yourself about the future. I think best thing for Babymetal, best thing for Moa will be for them to have the third person, whether that's just continuing with the Avenger and Momoko continues to be an Avenger and they don't ever give her a title, they don't ever let her appear in interviews. She's just an Avenger from here on out, or she becomes she actually becomes a member. I think they should always have like 3 people. Like they should always have the triangle, even though it's not a true triangle, because Momoko is, as you said, never going to be on the same level as Moa in the eyes of the fans. Anyway,
she could be if they let them if they let her.
After long enough, sure.
She could be, but I mean, but like I think regardless of the status that Momoko has, whether she's continues just to be an Avenger or she's made a permanent third member, I think they should keep the triangle and build from there. Ideally, I would love to see Momoko and Moa have their own like dynamic duo and to have their own songs together. And I've said this before, but Sue to have her solos and that to be the thing. But whatever happens, we'll take it as it comes.
I think, as I was saying earlier, it's hard to extrapolate and speculate the future based upon what we saw in the past, just because of the constraints that they have that most bands don't have. So for example, even if they wanted, let's say, the Avengers to do more than they have, like 2 of their Avengers were literally children, and a third one, Revo, likely was never supposed to be long term. They just need someone who was really good, really experienced, and could cover the shows, and then she would move on. So, just because the Avengers had been in a more minified role in the past, they might have reasons for that, and there's no reason they can't do it in the future. But again, Momoko and Kano were literally underage children, for most of the Avengers time, and they still are actually.
Yeah.
Momoko just turned, I think, 18, right? It's 20 in Japan. So
Kano was 14 when she did her first show at Yokohama. So.
Yeah. So they might change that, in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much. I'm very much in the camp where I would love to see a permanent third girl, and like I said, the solidity of the triangle, shall we say? I feel for me personally, I feel like that's the way to go. But I'm very much on with Paul what he said as well. Even if she wasn't a third member, if even just keeping that triangle for shows and dances and stuff like that is I still think is the right call.
As long as we're daydreaming and talking about your ideal, which I realized I didn't actually answer your question. Sorry about that.
Sorry, go on.
My ideal would be, either at the last Budokan show or the show kicking off the next thing. I think both would work. Is that you have something. I don't think they'll ever do this, but you'd have something official, like an official passing of the torch from Yui to the third member.
Yeah.
I think that's respectful to Yui's legacy. That is also sets up the third member for success better than just her randomly trying to usurp Yui. If the fans, Yui fans, have Yui's blessing, and she approves, but she needs to leave for her own reasons. You can put that in the lore if you want. But I'm leaving because I want to, and they accept it. But I accept you as my replacement. I think that leaves a much better taste.
We actually we actually
I don't think that ever happened.
Yeah, I don't think it will ever happen either. But we actually brought that up a few episodes ago. We actually said what would be the preferred way to pass the torch, and that was one of the things that we all agreed on, that if there was ever going to be a passing of the torch or a third girl, that would be the way to do it. Have Yui come back, even if it's just one goddamn show. She doesn't even have to dance. She just appears on stage with a cloak, hands the fucking torch or whatever to Momoko, and then Momoko grabs the torch, Sue and Moa grab her, crucify the bitch. And then Yui just walks off stage. That's all you need. She doesn't even need to speak a word. She doesn't even need to say a goddamn thing. Just having her there doing that one little thing, I think will give a lot of fans that peace of mind, and I do hope that's the way they go. I hope, like I really hope that's the way it goes. Reality may come back to kick us all in the ass, though. I feel.
Yeah. I mean, reality might be, for whatever reason, Yui might be like, Ayami, and for whatever reason, just done with, the group or whatever, and that is what it is. We don't know, but yeah, I think someone in the chat was saying that the word successor is better than replacement, and I totally agree.
Yeah,
that's how I want to see it.
Yeah, I think that's the best way
with that,
to do it.
Yeah, I think like in the eyes of fans, especially Yui fans, but in general, just Babymetal fans who also appreciate Yui, she would never be placed in the sense of like I think you can't put the expectation on someone who might be the third member or the only Avenger as being the new Yui, because they can't be the new Yui. They can only be the best version of themselves.
I would say,
like Momoko can only be the best Momoko she can be.
I would say it's a future thing. I would say it's a past thing. I feel like you do this not only for the third member so she can be accepted, but you do this so to give the respect to Yui as well. Like there's a reason. Like Funny was right. Like replacement and successor. Successor sounds so much better. I think successor or doing something to succeed satisfies both parties. So you satisfy the Yui people. I think it gives them a bit of clarity, a little bit of something they could to end on, I suppose.
In terms of language, it's a better word to use than replace.
Just to. I always feel like if you turn around to anybody and they go, "Oh, Momoko's now the third girl," but there's nothing from Yui, I feel like that's going to leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Only because it doesn't give Momoko probably the entrance that she deserves for her own legacy, but it also is disrespectful to Yui and everything that she's done as well. And I feel like she needs a proper send off. Now, again, it's purely speculative because we don't know what's happened behind the scenes. Yui might not ever want to come back.
That's the thing
as well. So like we don't know. But if there was one way that I would like them to do it, that would be the way. It doesn't. She doesn't need to speak.
Passing of the torch type thing.
I think enough time has passed that if they just kind of do it, Momoko just becomes third girl without any ceremony or pomp. I think it's gotten to the point where we can all accept that, But that's just our deal, right?
Yeah, we can all accept it. I just feel like I said, I feel like it's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is I wasn't here around then, but I'm pretty sure, Paul can speak to this. People would have rioted if they'd done that in 2018. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
We're okay with it now in 2021.
Momoko has been the only Avenger for the past year. Ever since she took over for Riho on the European tour from Berlin. I think it happened in Berlin she was a surprise Avenger at that show. So ever since then, which was mid-February, she's been the only Avenger. She's done, she's been on the TV show. She's been on the Kohaku. I think that's like the big end of year TV show. So like although she wasn't named or she didn't appear in any interview as such, she was there. She's been on all of these recent TV shows over the Christmas period. She's doing all the shows at Budokan, it seems. So she's been there for done so many shows now that she almost feels like she's part of Babymetal, and people even call her Momoko Metal now. I've heard like a Japanese YouTuber there that did a blog on Budokan. She called her Momoko Metal. And
I think that from her first appearance in Taiwan, though. So
yeah. I mean, and I don't know. So you're living in Taiwan. Did you manage to get to that? Or no, that was before you knew about Babymetal. But yeah. So I think she's like part of Babymetal now in every way, but officially at the moment. So I don't think it needs the passing of the torch ceremony as such, for the fan. That would be nice, but I don't think it's necessary, and I think people will embrace Momoko. If Babymetal say, if Babymetal say okay, Momoko is we consider her Momoko Metal now, and she's going to be scream and dance as well. I think yeah, some people would kick and scream about it. Maybe some Yui fans would throw their toys out of the pram. But I think overall fans would be cool with it, and Baby Metal would just continue. And the next show they did, people would just love it again, and they would just love the new Baby Metal, and they would forget about I guess maybe it didn't transition as perfectly as they wanted it to, but it's still going, and they're still awesome, and it's still Baby Metal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, like you said, I don't feel like, yeah, you're right. It's not necessary, but I feel like it's the right thing to do. It's like, it's like if you see a granny fall over on the street, you don't have to go and help her, but you sort of do, like, it's the right thing to do. I kind of put it in that kind of category. Like, it's not necessary, but I feel like you should. So, I'm just saying.
They talked about this kind of, in interview, right? They were talking about Kansas City and the U.S. tour in that regard, and they were saying simultaneously, because they were really low in confidence, at that point. They were afraid of getting stuff thrown at them and booed and all that at Kansas City. And
super low, yeah.
Scared as hell because she's in front of the crowd, Sue's behind her, just no one by her, whatever, and so forth. But in the interview, they also said that, there were many people who had seen Baby Metal for the first time on the at that tour, and for people who didn't have any, preconceptions, they thought the show was awesome, right? They never knew, they don't feel that they're missing a member. They think, oh, Baby Metal's there's 4 girls on the stage, badass, all right, So I think that helped give them confidence, where we can, because that's the part where going through interviews, you feel like they're exploring, well, what is Baby Metal? They're defining as Baby Metal is us 3. Does it have to be, though? That's the way it's always been. They never thought about it before, right? And then realized that Baby Metal is more than just them 3 and just the Kami. Baby Metal is a spirit, I guess, in that sense. And if it's spirit, it can't be destroyed by. It's like a sports team, right? A sports team will. I'm not saying that all members are replaced. My point is, the sports team is not just the people on the name on the back of the jersey. The sports team is also the logo on the front of the jersey. I think as they realize that, they're able to figure out what's truly important and what things were allowed to change. And so that's a process. But the point is, for people who didn't have preconceptions or this is how it must be, from the past, they loved the new shows, the Dark Side era shows, as much as anyone else. So I think the same would go for whatever they do, moving forward, whether it's Momoko Metal or whatever. I think whatever it is, there's going to be people who hate it, and there's going to be people who love it. But overall, if the trend continues, there's going to be more people who love it than hate it.
Yeah.
So
as long as there's something. I think that's all that anybody that matters at the end of the day. As long as it keeps going forward.
As long as we have Sue and the Kami, we're good.
Yeah. So all right.
Everything else is just gravy.
Everything else is just great. Exactly. Well, we've got past the 2-hour mark, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start slowly winding down. I want to say a big thank you as well to everybody in the chat. So we're going to open up to some questions as well from you guys. So if you want to ask either myself, Paul, or Stephen something, anything, and then we will go through your answers. If you guys see anything in the chat as well you'd like to answer, don't be afraid just to.
Sure. Yeah. Loon actually asked a question earlier that I marked down, so I can respond to him.
Yeah. Go for it.
Sure. So Loon was asking if there's anything surprising I think I encountered when I was translating an interview or something like that. And I think the thing about surprising is that it depends on what you expected, right? Like, for example, if you know nothing about a group or whatever, everything's surprising because it's all new.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes for interviews, you'll get new tidbits, new little stories that you didn't get before. Because if obviously there's going to be something new, because otherwise, why do a new interview? But I think in general, there's not as much anything that's surprising because they're not out of character. It's not all of a sudden, they're always like in character. They never do something like, fuck the fans, right? They're not going to do something like that. That would be surprising for sure, but they're not going to do that.
I would love that.
So something that's surprising is something that you didn't know about them before, right?
Yeah.
But so there are some things about that I didn't know before. I think the Mikiko Metal interview in Kadokawa was interesting to me because she talks pretty clearly how, because she was there from the beginning, right? And then she's giving a message to SuzukaYuiMoa, particularly moving forward, and her blessings for them. And she said pretty clearly, this wasn't, I know that this wasn't what you guys had planned at first in your life. This wasn't what you expected. And I think, that was surprising to me because I guess we kind of knew that, like, they joined SG to be an idol. Babymetal is not idol, whether in their image or the way they do things. They don't do idol handshakes. They don't interact with fans very much. And knowing Moa's how much Moa wanted to be an idol, that might not have been what she wanted, what Sue wanted at first. They wanted to interact with fans and to not have to do emojis or wherever, right? I don't know if she's actually forced to do that. I'm just saying. Mikiko Metal is saying that this is not what you guys signed up for originally, but I'm really glad that you guys have stuck with it, and I think you guys will be glad that you guys have stuck with it. I think that really stuck with me, because I think that helped to illustrate a very human moment. At the end of the day, this is a job, and jobs have their ups and downs, and that there are people like us, they struggle like us, and they have their moments of weaknesses or hesitations or doubts, and if they can move through them, they're stronger than before. So that's something I liked from the Miko interview that I didn't know before. I didn't really know before that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
This is
to read.
different from what the original.
I read that
was.
too.
Yeah, and then
Moa I read that too from the Kadokawa. That was cool.
Yeah, and then Moa said about how she sacrificed a lot, and while we already knew that every child star sacrificed the normal childhood and all that, but just that she says that, I think is. I enjoy these moments in interviews, especially where the girls are human, because they're not really human in TV interviews or performances, because they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be gods and goddesses, and that's great. But
playing a character.
Yeah. So I appreciated that. I think in interviews the human moments. They're not necessarily surprising, but those are the parts I guess I enjoy the most. Because like Sue also, to go back to all three of them, in an interview talked about how Moa. She literally said, Moa wasn't really the best dancer to begin with, which it can sound like an insult, but I don't think it was meant to be. I think it's a fair assessment. She was better. She was a great performer. It's not the same thing as being a good technical dancer. She knows
entertainer.
How to crowd, but her moves might not have been as perfectly as Yui, but she had a slightly different role, in the group when Yui was around, and she performed the role well. But as Moa tried to work on her weaknesses, she identified this as a weakness. But normally, I don't think you ever have a guitarist in the band come down and saying, "Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm really not that good at guitar, and I had to face guitar seriously for the first time, after like 6 years." Like, who says that? They said that, so that was surprising to me for them to acknowledge or to point out that, you know what, we weren't that good at this thing, but now we're going to do this. I felt very human, and that was kind of surprising to me in interviews because before I began translating, I, like everyone else, only saw them as on stage. It's very scripted, for better or for worse. It's very real. It's very, very polished. But through the interviews, you get to see a more human side of the girls, and sometimes that's kind of surprising. And I think that's been great. So nothing really out of character, because after a while you feel like these girls, right? So when you hear an answer from them, like Moa talking about the crowd in IDZ, you're like, oh yeah, man, that makes sense. You're never like, wait, what? Why the hell did she say that? The one time Wembley, right? The one time we're all still like, what the fuck? Yeah. Even the Japanese fans, my Keiko paramedic, he's also like, I have no idea why she and you were crying after that, man. They were great, Yeah. Occasionally.
They say about Wembley, like they say that like it was really bad for them, or they felt bad after it. Like as someone who was at Wembley, I saw no mistakes. I just saw the most awesome performance ever.
Yeah, so that was surprising.
The fact that they thought that it didn't go well, or they cried about it after, I'm like, really? Like, did I miss something? And since I've read them saying those things about Wembley, I've watched Wembley back, and I don't see it. I just see like just a normal awesome Babymetal show. I don't see any difference. But obviously something they didn't feel quite right. Or
we got a question from Good as well. Sorry, cut you off there. It goes a question for us all. What are all of our opinions on Suzuka's role in managing Babymetal? Is she doing what Koba says, or are they equal now? Or is maybe Sue now tells Koba what she wants? So basically, what are our thoughts or opinions about Sue taking more of a probably more of a role in the direction of Babymetal? Do you reckon that's the case, or do you reckon Koba will forever hold the reins there?
Well, as you guys have found out, I can speak forever, so I can answer if you guys want. But I think I'm happy to let you guys take a stab at it first.
I think it definitely comes down to. I'll go for this one. I definitely think it comes down to age. I feel like probably like when the band started off, I mean, these girls were 14 years old. I don't think they had any input into what they were doing, probably whatsoever. I feel like the management probably listened, but it at that age, I definitely feel like it was a business sort of where it was going. Now, obviously, as they're aging, as they're getting older, their influence is probably growing, both Sue's and Moa's. But I think it comes down to the character of Suzuka as well. I don't think she'd ever turn around and go, well, like, I want to do this. I feel like she's very appreciative of probably Koba and everything the band and Babymetal has ever done for her. So I think it would be like a half relationship. But I always do feel that Koba will he'll be the man in charge. I feel like Suzuka will go to him with her inputs, but I feel like he will probably have the last say all the time. As good as Sue is, Sue's a singer, and I don't think she's a manager or probably wants to get invested in the business side of the band. I feel like that would be too much. So I feel like for her, probably it's better just being able to sing, be on the stage, and then relax. Like I can't see her singing, being on the stage, and then we need to organize this. I need to go to the studio to do this. I need to put my input into this. I don't see her having that sort of control. I don't see her probably wanting that sort of control either. So yeah, I definitely feel like Koba will run things behind the scenes more often than not.
Yeah. I might answer that. So like, I think Sue's role within, I guess, not necessarily management, but the direction that Babymetal has gone in has increased over the years, especially since she turned 20 and became, I guess, a official legal adult in Japan, like after Legend S and for this album for Legend Metal Galaxy. I think her and Koba have probably kind of become more of a partnership rather than what it would have been before, where Koba was just saying Sue, you do this, and they didn't really have any pushback or any say or any kind of influence in the direction of Babymetal. So I think she probably does have more of a say in, I guess, maybe what kind of songs they do, or what are we going to do in this performance? What looks good? If I sing it this way, does it sound good? Or what kind of direction they should take? So things like that in terms of performance, I think she probably has a little bit more influence in, but not management in the sense of the business side of things. At the same time, she is the singer, and she wants to just be the singer, but also as the singer and the leader of this group, I think she'd also like to have, I think she probably does now, well, more so than before anyways, a bit more say, a bit more influence in the direction they take, and maybe the smaller things like what are we going to do with this song, and how should this be performed, and maybe she talks with Mikiko about performance, and maybe she talks with Koba about what's going to happen with this song or with this performance. So yes, in terms of the direction and the performance, not so much the business or management side of things. Like you said, Neon, I don't think she wants to do that. She is the singer, but you know what I mean? Not business or management wise, but just a general kind of.
I think any artist wants to have an input in the music they put out. So
yeah, you don't want to be totally she is an artist, she is a singer, she wants to have some influence in it, but not at the end of the day, Koba is the producer, he is the manager, he's going to have the final say. But I definitely think he probably talks to Sue about what they're going to do, and would kind of wants her to be on board with it.
Yeah.
So they probably are on the same page the vast majority of the time. I don't think he would. I don't think he would do something that she completely, disagree with or didn't want to do.
No, of course,
I think that,
of course not.
You know what I mean? I think they're a partnership in that sense. It's not like a dictator, someone who follows orders. It's more of a partnership, I think. Yeah, more so now than it was when they were younger.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel there's a relationship. I'm going to rattle through a few questions because there's been a lot of them.
But
it goes. We got one from Blue who says, if Koba introduces new Avengers, who would you like to see in that role? I'll go with Funny on this one because he missed the last question. So if you could have, if they went through with a new Avengers setup, who would you have?
Well, just because I can, I'm still gonna do a really short answer to the previous question.
Sure.
It's basically, Muse and Koba, they're still the manager. By manager, I mean they decide the direction of the band, like if we're going to tour in this place and when we're going to release the album, and they should be doing that. But I think Sue, and not just Sue, I think Sue and Moa, they have a lot of creative influence now, more than they did as a kid, So it's kind of you do your thing and I'll do my thing. You do, managing and all that. But on the creative side, I totally believe that they're much more involved than before. In the past, Koba would have to say,
I agree.
I need this sign here, I need this X here because this means that. So they had that for IDZ. He taught Mikiko, I want the X because this means this and this metal, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. But nowadays, I'm completely confident that when it comes to dancing or wherever, maybe they'll have Mikiko give a direction, but Moa and them, they will definitely improvise or figure out, I want to do this better. And management's not going to say no, they're going to say yes. Because the dynamics are different.
Yeah.
Sure, when let's say you're a sports star, right? You play for a team and the coach decides how many minutes you get on ice or wherever. But at the same time, there's a power dynamic there that's different from a normal employee because you're the star. They can't work without you. So they have to, see to you to a certain extent, So I think just to go back to what I was saying before, when it comes to management is doing management. When it comes to creative direction, they have a lot more than they did before. In interviews, to go back to it, they were saying for the one, what do you want to do? I want to fly. Okay, they got that. They're flying in the one, for Legend. What do you guys want to do, And so they had Moa and the little butterfly and whatever. So I think they're getting more and more of that as that goes on. Who knows?
I agree.
Having the 4 little sister bones was Moa's idea. It could very well have been. It seems very in character.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, so it's different kind. She's not equal to Koba. They're not equal to Koba. They're different roles. You can't compare them. When it comes to the Avenger question, it's just you can't really answer that question because you don't know, for example, if there are other possibilities. I didn't know Riho existed before she came, but she was great, so I don't want to say it's going to be Momoko because there could be someone who's just perfect for whatever reason elsewhere. So I guess I'd rephrase the question to, out of the 3 Avengers, who did you enjoy the most, I suppose? And putting aside that, I think my favorite personally was just Kano for a while, partly just because she had that childish joy, and her size was closer to Moa and all that. But it's not a really strong preference. I like all of them. But if I had to choose, I loved Kano.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? If you had to choose one?
Well, so far the Avengers they've all had some kind of connection to Babymetal. So like Riho went to Ash with Sue, and they've been friends for forever basically, and they knew each other. Kano and Momoko obviously came from SG, and even though they weren't there at the same time as Sue and Moa, SG is kind of like a sisterhood thing. So if you're SG, you're part of a family. So I think like the only other people really that have connections to Sue and Moa in that way would be other SG people. So I guess maybe some of the 1-5 members could do like Japanese shows. Like Kano could probably still do Japanese shows and still be part of 1-5. I don't know if there's many SG people that could do it. Maybe Hannah. Hannah's very popular among Babymetal fans, former SG. Remember, Saya Hirai was the I guess the Avenger before there were Avengers. She went to Torihime. That's finished now, so she's available now, and she's done it before. So maybe it could be Hannah or Saya. Those would be the only 2 names that I can really think of at the moment.
Yeah.
That have a connection. I think connections are important in Babymetal. So if they just brought in someone that was completely unknown to Sue and Moa, that would kind of fuck up the dynamic of them being a connected group. So maybe Hannah, maybe Saya. But other than that, I can't really think of anybody.
Yeah.
1-5.
I'll keep my answer short and sweet. I said if they were going to do some new Avengers, I would like maybe some of the Sakura Gaikuin girls to take over.
Yeah.
My personal favorite out of the girls was Kano. But if I was to choose
one, awesome.
If I was to choose one to be the Avenger now or to take that 3rd person spot, I feel like because Momoko's been the last one over the last year, she's the one who's been stuck with it. Right. I feel like she's more deserving. So I would say my personal favorite Kano. I would say the most deserving Momo for sure. We've got another question from Sue.
Oh,
no. Sorry, I'm trying to get through everybody's questions. Like there's so many. He goes, question for Paul. He goes, what was your favorite show that you went to?
Tokyo Dome. Two Nights at Tokyo Dome. It was like the ultimate baby metal show. It was the whole first album, whole second album. Crazy, unbelievable time. First time in Japan. Couldn't fucking believe I was there when I was standing in the stand watching the show. It was mind blowing, awesome. Yeah. Tokyo Dome.
Nice one. We got another question as well. It goes, question for all of us. What's your thoughts on the Sacred Queen Moa, herself and her studies? What does it say to you personally? It shows a dedication to music and the industry, that she's in it for the long haul. If you guys didn't know, we know from various leaks and stuff that Moa is in university studying music at the minute. Is that a good or a bad thing? I'll go first for this one. I'll try and shoot it off relatively quickly to answer more questions. I think it's a good thing. I think it's good that she went for music. As somebody who's in a band who tours around the world, I think going for music is probably the best thing you could probably go to. I personally, I don't think her studies would make much of a difference. I mean, she's already known worldwide. I mean, even if she didn't go to uni, she could probably walk into most music jobs, I feel now, with her reputation. I just hope personally that with her studies and stuff like that, that she has fun. I mean, that's all it's about. At her age, university, she gets to feel a little bit normal and have a school life. The fact that it's music, that's good. As long as she learns some...
It's not actually music. I think it's neuroscience relating to how music affects people. It's not music a music degree.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, there you go then. Something I don't know.
It's more of a science. I heard it's more of a science-related thing, but it's related to music too.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think it's cool. I think it's cool. I think Moa, music is part of her life. Babymetal has been pretty much her life. Since she started being an idol, as Stephen said, it's not just Sue, whose life is Babymetal. Moa is very much invested in Babymetal too, and is fully dedicated to it. I think her studies are more for the future. I think she'll get her degree or whatever. Maybe she graduates this year, and I guess she'll continue with Babymetal for as long as she can, and for as long as Sue and Moa are successful at it. But then, maybe when Babymetal is over in 5-10 years, she stays in the music industry, but more so in relating to what her degree is, maybe the science behind music and things like that, and she's involved in something like that. So I think it's great. It shows that she really loves music, and it's not just a job for her. Singing and dancing and performing and being in the entertainment business is what she really loves, and this is what she wants her future to be, about music in some way going forward, even if it's in after Babymetal. So I don't see any downside to it at all.
What about you,
It's awesome.
I think this is a great question, and I think I hate to bring everything back to translation, but you know what you're getting into when you.
That's the thing, the translation.
Not translation, but what I mean is it's culture and language. So I love this question just because I feel like it opens people's minds to different possibilities or different ways of thinking about the world, and by that I mean people do things. In entertainment, differently. The way they do things is different from especially Western entertainment, where it feels more like everyone's trying to hit the lottery kind of approach. So people are saying, real music has to be, formulated by 4 guys in a garage band eating ramen, and then, you make it big. It's not, you don't have your songwriters. You have to write it yourself for it to be real. I understand that, there's less of a structure. Unlike, Japanese groups where a lot of it's corporate backed and they get salaries and they're not, making all the money off of touring. There's more stability and there's also less creative input. It's a different thing. And I think there are definitely pros and cons to each one. But what I appreciate about Moa doing her study is I think that reflects the way she thinks about the world and the way she thinks about life. And I think that's really good. By that I mean, to draw an analogy, another good example I feel is Jeremy Lin. He's an MBA. Well, he was an MBA. He's trying to get back nowadays.
Linsanity.
Yeah, as he was saying, when he was growing up, you look at how good he is, and his path is very special. It's very different from most people. For him, he said in his family growing up, the priorities were number 1, God, number 2, school, and number 3, basketball. and only his parents, you have to do 1 and 2 before you're allowed to do 3. So by the time you're allowed to do 3, that means you're already successful, you're already grounded, you're already humbled by something else before you're allowed to shine on the stage. And I think that affects your personality. I think it makes you hardworking, makes you more careful. And so similarly, we heard stories of Yui and Moa and probably Sue doing homework backstage, as they're touring. And at a certain level, from a Western perspective, that just seems absurd, right? You're like, what are you guys doing for school for? You guys are set up for life, man. You can just keep on, performing for the rest of your life and you're good enough,
rock
right?
stars.
And just making enough money. I imagine very few Westerners would do that because it's not a very good rate of return on investment, right? Like you're wasting time in terms of making money or making yourself famous. You're wasting time by studying. You don't need that, right? And I that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that shows you, well, it's not just about being famous, and it's not just about what makes the best, financial sense or the best sense for my career. It's what makes more sense for me as a person, And I think, going to university and all that and learning about something that you might not even use in real life, is important as a person. A lot of things I studied in my degree, I'm not using my work nowadays, but I like to think that it made me a more complete and a better person, So I like that she's studying something and not just, thinking, what, I can coast on, showbiz and that's what I want to do. I like that she's a more centered person. And it reveals their priorities in life. Her mom, she said in her diary, her mom, as she was an SG and was even part of Babymetal, she's making it big. And then her mom one time is saying, dude, your grades have fallen. If this keeps up, I'm pulling you out. And she's like, holy shit, So that affects me.
Never cross Moa's mom.
It's just because I'm Asian, but I approve of that to a certain extent. Some people take it too far, right? But I like the fact that it helps keep them grounded. I think we appreciate the girls because they're so, even though they're big rock stars, they're still so humble at the same time. And that doesn't come from nowhere. The reason why they're so humble and all that, that's related to their upbringing and their values. And I think Moa going to college and for neuroscience and, Sue studying Japanese language or wherever, despite who they are and their status compared to maybe some of their classmates, is good. And that shows you that's why they are who they are. They're humble and they want to keep on learning and doing things. So I like it. I like the fact that, Queen Moa is
we got another question from Nate. He goes, question for Funnytoss. He goes, what's your best moments of discovering Babymetal? What pushed you down the foxhole?
Well, it wasn't what pushed me down. What pushed me down was pretty straightforward, actually. It was just following the YouTube path. Babymetal reacts to, YouTubers react to Babymetal. And then I thought, okay, it's not like a gimmick, but I'm kind of curious. And I look up some photos and then, all right, let's see what else they have. And then there was karate. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then it was Road of Resistance. And I was like, oh, okay, this is really cool. And so I used to start learning about the band. And because I think back in the day, there wasn't anything like, Cryptic Misery's, guide to Babymetal. So the order in which you get information is kind of here and there. You might jump back and forth, So I found some information about, the dark side and the elf costumes. And then I got to Tokyo Dome and it just bounces back and forth. So sometimes the memories all mix together. I don't know what point I realized that, Yui wasn't there anymore, and so on and so forth. But I think when the Legend Metal Galaxy shows were broadcast on WoW, because at that point, I feel like I'd become invested enough in the band to the point where even though Yui was already gone by the time I joined, I felt the sense of loss when she left, and I felt the meaning of the Avengers by that point. Because the Avengers don't mean anything until you realize what they're doing, for the band, right? So I think by that point, when Legend Metal Galaxy Day 1 and Day 2 were being broadcast on WoW, that was enough time had passed where I had absorbed enough information about the band to truly appreciate them. Like most reactors, for example, will like a band, but they can't appreciate it to the same extent. They're not supposed to have the background information, But for me, Legend Metal Galaxy was the first time where it felt like, let's say going to a show and understanding what it was in your heart, not just in your head, and appreciating, seeing all 5 girls, on the stage, with the flags. That was a really that was an awesome moment. And that was, I think, the best thing that I have next to when I have a chance to see them live one day, hopefully next year or whenever. So Legend Metal Galaxy Day 1 streamed on.
All right, cool.
I can definitely co-sign the Legend Metal Galaxy. Was such a great event. I managed to go to it. unbelievable show. Like if anything, like the question was, I answered Tokyo Dome as being the greatest show that I managed to get to, but like Legend Metal Galaxy is a huge contender for it. Like I feel Legend Metal Galaxy was the Tokyo Dome of the Metal Galaxy album, if that makes any sense. Whereas Tokyo Dome was like the culmination of the first two albums. Legend Metal Galaxy was the big like super legend show of Metal Galaxy, and it was like as you said, the five members on stage and the two bands, and just everything came together to make something really amazing. So yeah, that was a great event.
Yeah,
nice. We got another question for Funny, popular today, my man. Okay. He goes, what? This is from Flair. He goes, what's your favorite metal genre Baby Metal has used for their songs?
So obviously, full disclosure, I never was like a big metal fan before learning about Baby Metal. I don't think I consider myself a metal fan per se. And plus, metal has so many subgenres that I don't know which genre is which and what makes this metal and what's not metal. So all I can say is that I think it just depends on what songs you like, because not all of Baby Metal songs are even like quote unquote metal, right? But my favorite song every single time is Nekitsune. And I don't know how you would categorize that, right? It's a mix, obviously, of Japanese elements, and it has metal elements and everything like that, but it has pop elements too. So I don't know what genre that would be, but I think that just speaks to what I like out of Baby Metal. But I think my tastes are a little bit different from some fans, where I think a lot of fans, they don't like, let's say, Shanty Chan Shanty, and I love Shanty, actually. I love a lot of, the new songs, but I love, Catch Me If You Can, Little Resistance, Shine. I think it's faster to tell you what songs I don't like, and that's just because the genre. I don't appreciate.
Other songs are
just
great.
Can't get the song or Sis Anger, for example. Like I know what it is, but it basically what songs you skip, when it comes upon your playlist. And there's songs that I skip, and otherwise there's songs I don't skip, and I don't skip most of them, which means I like most of them.
Yeah.
My number one.
Yeah, I like them all. I never skip a song. I love every Baby Metal song.
Sorry, what was your number one then, Funny? I didn't quite hear that then.
Quintessential Baby Metal song. Go ahead.
Sorry, what was your number one song then, Funny? Sorry, I didn't hear that meant.
Megitsune.
Ah, okay, cool. Because that's the next.
I learned to sing as well. I sing it to myself every day when I'm driving.
Because that's the next question. Actually, I was going to pop up what everybody's favorite song is. So what's yours then, Paul? If you had to pick one favorite song.
IDZ. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my number one.
So I'm going to.
What about you, Neon?
I'm going to cop out on my answer just because I know Good's in the chat, and I'm going to go that Shine is the best song ever.
Good really loves Shine.
Good really loves Shine. For me, I don't know. I'm more of a metal background. I love metal. So for me, it would be probably Rondo or something like that. I love the Kami. Yeah, the Kami stuff for me really pulled me in with the solos and stuff like that. Yeah. So I love One Diary as well immensely. For those of the people that know me from my Twitch streams, I literally do not hesitate to play One Diary whenever I freaking can. So yeah, if I was to lean one way, it would be that way. So, thank you for the gifted sub as well. I appreciate that. I do apologize as well if anybody's been dropping any bits or been gifting subs. I have been keeping my eye on the chat, but I just didn't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation we were having. So I'll say that now for everybody that's been donating and stuff like that during the chat. I do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I think I am caught up on. I think I am caught up on chat now. So if anybody else has one or two more questions before we wrap it up, now's the time to do it. I'll whoever bangs out the first two questions first, we'll ask them, and then we'll wrap up this episode. So.
Well, I think while we're waiting. Oh wait, hold on.
Sorry, go on, Funny. Sorry, we got time, mate.
Well, no. Well, I mean, while we're waiting, I was gonna just point out, I know a lot of people want to read a new translation or a machine translation of something as soon as it comes out, and I understand that. But I always appreciate when someone can wait for a human translation first, just because most people I think use DeepL nowadays or Microsoft Translate, and I just want to share from a translator's perspective why I understand why those are great, but you need to be really careful because, for example, in Japanese, they skip pronouns a lot. Because you can figure it out from the context, but it's not written. You don't say the pronoun because that just feels weird. The problem is like DeepL, for example, it will add pronouns because you need to add pronouns sometimes in English, but its guesses are often incorrect. For example, the gender is almost always incorrect, or if it adds a pronoun, there's one example I can't bring it off the top of my head, but it added an extra you or her. I remember. It was Moa talking about Yui's departure or something like that. And then something, it translated as, maybe I was too hard on her, right? That was the DeepL translation. And people went crazy with it for a while. And I read that like, no, that's not what she said. There is no her. There is no her in sentence. DeepL added that because from that one, it means, Moa drove Yui away, for criticizing her for leaving. Like, no. And it turns out that was more like, maybe it's easier for me to get over it because, I have high expectations for myself. I need to be a composed person, so I have high expectations for myself and I hold myself to high standards. So I got myself to get over it quickly because that's how I move. That's a professional performer, right? That's kind of what it was going for. So my point is like, I'm not saying don't use, DeepL because I'm not going to translate everything. I don't have time to do it. And sometimes you guys, want to figure out what something is, and then that's fine. So I just say that if you find that something is strange, if you read something and it feels really out of character, or that this would drive speculation, and feel free to message me on Reddit or on Discord, wherever, just to say, hey, this is what I think it says. Is this what it really says? Just to make sure, and don't just go on YouTube and say, Moa drove you away. No. If you think something's weird, it probably is, and just feel free to message me. I'm happy to look over it. For you.
Like I said, I will stick Funny's Discord link as well as any links he'll give me at the end of this podcast in this YouTube video as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube at the minute, if you scroll down, Funny's links will be in the description down below. So if you want to go and check out his stuff as well, you're more than welcome to. We've got another question to go. It goes, any specification that you guys would like to share about the next album? So where would you like the next album sort of to go?
Speculation is it?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, speculations you would like to share about the next album. I wouldn't say speculation too much. I
think we've speculated enough about.
Yeah, I think speculation's been enough. If I had to do like where I would like the next album to go, I would very much like. I feel like Metal Galaxy was a good album and a nice departure. But I'm sort of hoping they go back to the more metal roots, the more metal resistance, a lot more guitar, a lot more faster pace from personally. But I know some people find that Metal Galaxy is their favorite album from the three. So that's just personal opinion.
Okay. I want them to a certain extent to keep on doing what they're doing, and by that I mean with Metal Galaxy, you saw them saying, "Well, screw what everyone might want. We're going to do what we want." So they include. I'm going to do Indian metal. I can do old Majinai. I'm going to BMC. I'm going to do whatever, and try it, and it's going to be good.
Yeah.
So I want them to keep that spirit and not be constrained by the framework of this is metal, or even as they say, they even felt constrained by this is what baby metal ought to sound like. They've been constrained by their own sense of brand, and they've been to break free from that, which is good. So I want them to have that spirit of we want to do whatever we want. At the same time, though, I do think I want them to bring back some more of the Japanese elements. Like I said, Megitsune is my favorite song, but a lot of their songs, especially on the first album, are much more distinctly Japanese in culture and in lyrics and double meaning. And I think there's a richness and deepness. I think if you've been following the Andrew Hartley, Professor Hartley's long talks about baby metal songs, he unpacks a lot of the cultural meaning and whatever behind each song. I think that's great. That provides another layer for it. And I do think it feels a bit more inspired than some of their new Metal Galaxy songs, which I feel are great, but they're experimental.
Yeah.
And I think they're still best in an element when they can draw from the culture that inspires them the most, which, as far as we can tell, is still Japanese culture. So I want to see them touch upon many, all kinds of different genres on the next album, but with more of a Japanese taste than their newer stuff.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? Where would you like to see them go?
I agree completely what Steven said. Like Baby, like whatever Babymetal do is going to be awesome. It's going to be high quality. So I'm excited to see what comes next. I don't know what's going to come next. I love what Steven just said.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
What
he said. We got another question as well. It goes again from Funnytoss, but I'm sure me and Paul can answer this as well. What's your favorite Kami? Or who's your favorite Kami?
I answered that in the chat before, but I'm gonna say, I like Omura, man. He's just he's great, such a character.
Yeah, same. I think all three of us will be in agreement for that one. For Omura being the favorite, unless Paul's got a different opinion.
I would say Omura, but I'm gonna give a shout out to the most underrated Kami is Leda.
Yes,
he doesn't awesome.
He doesn't get enough love.
He doesn't really get any love. Like Mikio, like rest in peace, gets loads of love, and he should get loads of love. He's awesome. Omura obviously gets so much love, but
I mean, Omura's Omura.
How you say his name? he's awesome. So I love Omura. Like I would normally say Omura, but I'm gonna come to the defense of Leda. Dude's straight fucking awesome, and I love the guy, so he's awesome. I go with him.
We've got another question as well. Do we think the girls are gamers? Honestly, before Metal Galaxy, I would have said probably not. But I think with the I can never say the title, even though a million times BB up BB.
Up, down, left, right. BB.
Yeah.
Down, left, right, BB.
I just call it the Konami Code song. I feel like that. I feel like that was a hint, maybe. That the girls could possibly be, but
maybe Koba's thing.
Who knows?
I think it's probably Koba's thing. Koba was into Star Wars. Koba was into Queen. So he put the Star Wars thing into Babymetal. He gave Sue the half mic stand to emulate what Freddie Mercury used to do. So I think a lot of that stuff is kind of Koba's vision. I think they probably don't have time to be gamers. They're always busy.
Well, they've got plenty of time on the tour bus, haven't they? They gotta go from A to B if they're not sleeping.
I guess so. Like they probably play like a Nintendo Switch and play little games like that. But I don't think they're like gamers in the sense that they're like Neon Reaper gaming. But I guess they probably casually play some games. But no, I don't think they're gamers as such.
If we found out if we ever found out they were gamers, I don't think the girls could be any more cooler. It's just impossible.
I'm almost 100% certain. Like they definitely play, let's say, Animal Crossing on a Switch. That's not quite the same.
Definitely.
So, I don't know. I've seen some hardcore Animal Crossing players.
Yeah. But I do think, for example, Moa is a huge weeb. Right? Like she watches a lot of anime and a lot of weeby stuff. So that's not too far of a stretch from that to different casual, at least casual games. So it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, she's definitely an anime nerd, but maybe not a gamer.
Well, there you go, guys. We're gonna end it there. I feel this is a good thing because we're coming up to 3 hours again.
Wow.
In literally 10 minutes. So we're gonna wind down today. So I want to say a big thank you to Paul again. He's pretty much a regular on the show now. So probably don't even need to give you an outro anymore. You're just part of the furniture now, Paul. I love it, man. I always love your opinions, man, and the chat loves it as well. Also, Funnytoss as well, man. Steven, I want to say a big thank you for appearing on the show. It's been absolutely amazing hearing your opinions. I've learned so much from what you said about translations, things I didn't even know. It's been great having you on the show, great hearing and stuff like that, and just continue what you're doing, man. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I want to say that like Funnytoss.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, respond. Sorry.
No, I'm saying that's why I when someone asked me about it, I was like, okay, I'm happy to appear on it. Mostly just because I wanted to share that. Yeah, there's a lot behind the scenes, and there's a lot of cool stuff that people might not have known about the translation or in general. everyone wants to share about their own little thing that they care a lot about, and most of the time it's kind of boring to other people. Like, I love talking about people. I love hearing people nerd out about the thing that they know a lot about. Like cars, how to fix a car or whatever. And I think I'm just lucky to have a platform today where the thing that I like happens to be something that someone else might also want to listen to, and that's always a great feeling. So I appreciate it, and I think, I just want people to know that, like everything else, there's a lot of depth when it comes to something like translation, and that I hope you guys learned something new, and that's all I can hope.
Yeah.
All right.
I was going to say that I want to thank for what he does. I love his translations. I read every one of them. Your knowledge is like unbelievably good for like a 1-year Babymetal fan, and like I think what the other things you've said on the podcast are like so interesting, and I just want to listen to what you're saying because it's so good. So yeah, thanks for doing what you're doing. I know translation takes a long time, so to yourself and your partner there in translation, keep it going. We love what you do. We appreciate it. Thank you.
The next one is probably going to be not in a while, because there's no, as far as I know, there's no new interviews. There's just show reports. So I might, spend some more time on drawing. I haven't drawn something new in a while.
And Neon, thanks man for having me on. I'm part of the furniture.
Part
now,
of the furniture.
It's going to be hard to get rid of me, but hopefully, as long as people want me to come on and they're interested in what I have to say, I'll keep going.
Yeah, of course.
I'll piss off.
No, man, they're never sick of this. They're never sick of you. I'm sure if I ask the chat now.
Shout out to Brian.
Yeah, shout out to Brian. Don't forget to give Paul some love as well. You guys have been amazing. Thank you guys as well for the bitties and stuff like that. People are donating now.
Thanks for hosting. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I'm sure if you've enjoyed the experience, what I usually like to do is like with Brian today, he's been on previously, so maybe after a couple of more episodes, if you're interested, I might ask you to come on again. So and talk about.
If I have something new to say, then I might accept it. If I have nothing new, then we'll see. We'll see.
It'll be a long time from now. I usually my episodes are usually quite sparse in between, but thank you guys, thank you chat, thank you everybody. It's now the end pretty much. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for everybody that stayed for almost 3 hours, or practically 3 hours now. We're 8 minutes off 3 hours, so let's just say 3 hours. It's been amazing. It's been funny. We've learned so much. I hope you guys enjoyed as well. If you're watching this on YouTube and you've made it this far to the end of the video, thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe as well. I really, really appreciate it. I'm on the road to 20k. So all the help I can do to get there. So thank you guys. Thank you chat so much. And I'll see you guys next time. See you guys.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, he's gone.
かんぜよ